Chapter 1432. The mysterious lady asked, "Then what are you worried about?" Qin Feiyang said, "The last time you entered the divine ruins, it should have been 10,000 years ago." The mysterious lady nodded. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "Then have you ever thought that 10,000 years ago, it was a false god? Today, 10,000 years later, would it have already stepped into the war god realm?" The mysterious lady was stunned and said with a wry smile, "I really haven't thought about this." Qin Feiyang sighed. "If it has really stepped into the war god realm, then we can only pray that it has been sleeping." Tan Wu and the others also had a heavy heart. The Hell Godhound said, "This emperor is puzzled. Didn't they say that false gods can't enter the first floor? Why is there a pseudo-god level giant python?" "You have to ask the creator of the divine ruins, because only he has this ability. Perhaps that giant python was left behind by that creator." The mysterious lady said. "Creator, Wu Tian," Qin Feiyang muttered. "I really hope to meet this mysterious existence." While talking, two rays of light suddenly appeared in the passage ahead. "Is it the end?" Everyone stared at the two rays of light. Roar! But at this moment, a deafening beast roar sounded in front of them. Following closely, a huge black beast emerged from the storm. It was shaped like a violent ape, more than 100 feet tall. The pitch-black fur all over its body was like steel needles, emitting a bone-piercing cold light. How is this possible? Isn't the space-time storm able to kill even the war god? Why is there still a beast here? Qin Feiyang and the others turned pale with fright. "Retreat!" Tan Wu shouted. This giant beast was able to travel freely in the space-time storm. Its cultivation must have reached the peak of perfection, even surpassing the war god realm. Facing such an existence, even if there was Elder Qin and the other false gods, they would probably only die. "Don't retreat." But before Tan Wu's voice faded, the mysterious lady shouted, "Roar!" The giant beast pounced towards Qin Feiyang and the others, roaring and baring its fangs. Both of his arms were as thick as buckets and filled with destructive power. "It's not real. It's an illusion," the mysterious lady said. "Illusion?" Everyone was stunned. "Yes. Everyone who enters will have to go through the test of this illusion. If you can't withstand the test and escape, you will be obliterated by the space-time storm even with the protection of the alchemic fire. So, don't run away now. You have to face it bravely." I remember that back then, two false divinities fled in fear and ended up dying here, the mysterious lady said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the others broke out in cold sweat. If it wasn't for the mysterious madam, they would have really escaped. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the same time, they were cursing the person who created this miracle in their hearts. For a ferocious beast to suddenly appear in such a dangerous place, anyone would be frightened. Wasn't this a deliberate trap? The giant beast roared as it raised its dustpan-sized giant hand and slapped towards Qin Feiyang and his group. This scene was too lifelike. Whether it was the appearance of the giant beast or that terrifying ferocious power, it was no different from the real thing. Knowing that it was fake, but looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang and the others' hearts almost jumped out of their chest. When the giant palm came, Feng Ranran, Luodan, and Zhao Yu, these three women, even instinctively closed their eyes. But in the end, nothing happened. After the giant palm slapped down, it instantly dissipated like air. The giant beast in front of them also dissipated into nothingness. "It's really scary." Ling Yu patted his chest with lingering fear. "Yeah. If no one reminded us, we wouldn't be able to tell that this is just an illusion." Tan Wu said, "TCH, look at you guys. So what if it's real? If one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill two." The Hell Divine Hound said disdainfully. Everyone rolled their eyes. This guy was more afraid than anyone before and even hid behind Tan Wu. Now that it disappeared, it ran out to show off? Tan Wu was indeed right. This guy was a shameless fellow. Everyone calmed down and looked at the two light spots again. The light spots had already become the size of a wash basin. There was a long distance between the two light spots. The mysterious lady said, "The light spot on the left is the entrance to the first level, and the light spot on the right is the entrance to the second level. Are you all ready? Qin Feiyong and the others nodded, their eyes full of anticipation. For ordinary people, entering such a place where everything was unknown, they would definitely be nervous and perturbed. But for monsters like Qin Feiyong and Ling Yu, there was only anticipation in their hearts. 5 breaths later, the light spots had become the size of a dustpan. 20 breaths later, the size of the light spots was already more than 3 feet, like 2 full moons, emitting a dazzling light. Finally, they saw the situation around the 2 light spots clearly. Within 1,000 feet around the 2 light spots, it was a vacuum zone. There was no wind, but there was nothing else. Feiyong, I believe you can definitely become a god on the first level. I'll wait for you on the second level, Lu Jiajin said. Qin Feiyong laughed. I won't make you wait too long. Lu Jiajin nodded. A few breaths later, a group of people entered the vacuum zone. The barrier formed by the heavenly thunder flame and the ice flame automatically dissipated. The moment the barrier dissipated, a powerful suction force emerged from the 2 entrances. Qin Feiyong, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, Tan Wu, the Hell Godhound, and Ling Yu immediately flew towards the left entrance uncontrollably. The mysterious lady, Elder Qin, Lu Jiajin, the teacher of the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, and the middle-aged man flew towards the right entrance uncontrollably. Mother, teacher, uncle, take care. Following the shout of the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, the people on both sides entered the entrance and disappeared without a trace. On a vast plain, suddenly, following a scream, a figure fell from the sky like a meteorite, heavily smashing into the center of the plain, causing dust to fly everywhere. Damn it, how could it fall like this? If his cultivation was a little weaker, wouldn't he have fallen to his death? An angry curse immediately sounded from the dust. Following closely, a young man in white limped out of the dust, rubbing his buttocks as he cursed. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyong. However, at this moment, his hair was disheveled and his face was dirty. He was in an extremely sorry state. Moreover, after that fall, his entire body felt as if it was about to fall apart. It was extremely sore. Originally, he thought that he would land steadily on the ground or be directly teleported to the ground. However, he didn't expect that he would fall from the sky. Wasn't this asking for his life? Fortunately, his cultivation was strong enough. Otherwise, he would have fallen to his death. Who? Qin Feiyong exhaled, casually patted the dust off his body, and then raised his head to look around. Immediately, he frowned. This plain stretched as far as the eye could see. However, there was nothing on this plain. It could be described as not a single blade of grass growing. The ground was also covered with dry cracks, like a spider web. Moreover, looking around, he couldn't find a trace of a fierce beast or even a flying insect. Is this a miracle? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong was stunned. Why was it so hot? He looked at his 2 arms. His skin was already dripping with sweat. Swish. He hurriedly looked up at the sky and his body suddenly froze. The sky stretched as far as the eye could see. There were no clouds for thousands of miles. However, there were actually 10 scorching suns hanging in the sky here. That's right. There were indeed 10 suns in the sky. The 10 suns were arranged in a row, like 7 stars in a row, emitting a scorching heat, burning this piece of land. No wonder there isn't even a blade of grass here. It turns out that there are 10 eunuchs. Qin Feiyong muttered. Sweat dripped down like rain, dripping onto the rolling ground, making a sizzling sound. Buzz. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand and condensed a battle chi boundary to isolate the scorching sunlight. As the temperature here was too high, even if he was a 4-star combat emperor, if he didn't stop it, he would become weak due to lack of water and might even lose his life. However, after the boundary appeared, he didn't feel cold at all. It was still so hot. What's going on? This time, Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. After repeated tests, he finally got a shocking result. The battle chi boundary actually couldn't isolate the sunlight. This meant that the boundary existed in name only and didn't have any effect at all. Isn't this too outrageous? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the most important thing now was to find a water source. However, would there be a water source here? On such a hot day, even if there was a water source, it would have dried up long ago. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He never expected that a 4-star combat emperor would actually have a day where he would be worried about water. Fortunately, he still had the ancient castle. The ancient castle could definitely avoid the high temperature here. Swish! Qin Feiyang had an idea and was about to enter the ancient castle. However, suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and scanned the empty space. In the empty space, he actually couldn't sense the existence of essence. Essence was something that all living things in the world needed. For example, humans and beasts needed essence to cultivate. However, Qin Feiyang used to refined battle chi pills to cultivate. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to essence. However, at this point, he couldn't ignore this problem anymore. This was because the battle chi pills would be used up sooner or later. Although he also cultivated a medicinal field, the medicinal field was in the ancient pagoda, and the ancient pagoda was now in the hands of the old master. This meant that he couldn't count on the medicinal field anymore. Why didn't anyone tell me that there was a lack of essence here? Otherwise, I could have prepared more medicinal materials for battle chi pills. Qin Feiyang was extremely annoyed. He tried to fly, open the teleportation door, and revive the image crystal. However, none of them worked. The scorching temperature, the lack of essence, and all kinds of restrictions. For a cultivator, this is really a cruel place. Qin Feiyang sighed secretly. With an idea, he entered the ancient castle. Looking at this familiar place, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Because once he arrived here, his whole body immediately cooled down. He couldn't feel the heat at all. However, as the mysterious lady said, Fatso, Lu Hong, Viper, Dan Wangkai, Lu Zheng, Wolf King, Winged Snow Eagle, and other beasts had all disappeared without a trace. At this moment, he was the only one in the entire ancient castle. Don't say. Chapter 1433. I have to find everyone as soon as possible, Qin Feiyang muttered. The conditions here were too bad, and everyone was wandering outside. He was very worried. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed through the slave seal. The first thing he looked for was the white-eyed wolf. A moment later, he finally sensed the location of the white-eyed wolf. It was in the northeast direction, estimated to be tens of thousands of miles away from the plain where he was. Too far, Qin Feiyang muttered and sensed the location of Lu Hong and the others, as well as the double-winged snow eagle and the other beasts. In the end, he found that everyone was in different directions. They were also very far away from him. The white-eyed wolf was the closest to him. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and carefully sensed the location of the mists of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Soon, Qin Feiyang was stunned. The mists of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was actually near him. It was estimated to be only 500 to 600 miles away, located in the southeast direction. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang decided to find the mists of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion first. First, because this woman was the closest to him. Second, if something happened to this woman and the mysterious madam investigated, he couldn't bear the responsibility. After making the decision, Qin Feiyang immediately drove the castle and flew towards the southeast. However, he found that the scene in the void in front of him didn't move. The scene didn't move, which meant that the castle didn't move either. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded on the spot. Could it be that the castle couldn't fly? He quickly closed his eyes and sensed the situation of the castle. He found that the castle that had turned into dust was not floating in the void, but lying quietly on the dry and cracked ground. He tried several times, but the castle still didn't move. How can I play like this? Qin Feiyang frowned. He thought that with the castle, he could avoid contact with the hot weather outside, but he didn't expect that the castle couldn't move. The castle that couldn't be moved in this environment, to be honest, wasn't of much help to him. Looks like I can't be lazy in this place. I have to do everything myself. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. He left the castle and appeared on the plains. The scorching heat instantly enveloped them. In less than 3 breaths, Qin Feiyang was drenched in sweat. But now, He didn't have time to think too much about it. Using the phantom steps, he turned into a stream of light and sped towards the southeast. He was the only one left on the vast plain. Qin Feiyang's heart gradually became heavy under the hot weather and the deathly stillness. His brows were filled with wariness, because in such an unknown place, variables could appear at any time. After galloping for about 100 miles, they still couldn't see the end of the plain. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang felt like something was flying behind him with a gust of wind. Qin Feiyang, who had been tempered by life and death situations all year round, naturally reacted quickly. He immediately stopped and turned his head to look. However, he couldn't see anything in the void behind him. There was no movement on the ground either. What's going on? Could it be an illusion? Qin Feiyang frowned, turned back and continued to gallop forward, but secretly paid attention. About a dozen breaths passed. Suddenly, the wind blew. Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around to look. This move could be said to be lightning fast. This time, he caught a bloody light and jumped into the crack under his feet like lightning. When Qin Feiyang looked down at the crack, it had disappeared. What the hell? Qin Feiyang was surprised. That bloody light was only the size of a palm and didn't have any aura. It felt like a ghost, difficult to catch. Boom. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang's aura erupted. He stepped down and immediately retreated. Boom. Immediately, the place where he had stepped on before collapsed and sank crazily. In just a moment, a huge pit of hundreds of feet appeared. Dust and smoke filled the air. Qin Feiyang's eyes were like torches. With a wave of his hand, a strong wind whistled and the dust and smoke were quickly blown away. However, when the dust and smoke dissipated, there was nothing except for that huge pit. You really know how to hide. No matter what you are, you'd better not bother me again. Qin Feiyang scanned the huge pit and couldn't help but feel angry. He didn't want to waste any more time. With a cold snort, he turned into a stream of light and quickly left. As if hearing Qin Feiyang's words, that bloody light didn't appear again. Soon, Qin Feiyang sped for another 300 to 400 miles. However, he still couldn't see the end of the plain. It seemed to be really endless. However, on a small slope more than 10 miles away, he saw a person. It was a woman. She was wearing a light golden dress. Her figure was tall and slender, and her bearing was graceful. On her face, there was also a veil. Only a pair of clear eyes could be seen. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, giving off a sense of mystery. That's right. This woman was the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house. At this moment, she stood on the hillside and looked around, as if she was looking for something. However, at this moment, under the scorching heat, she was also sweating profusely, and her clothes were almost drenched. Soon, she also noticed Qin Feiyang, and a strange light flashed across her eyes, and she hurriedly rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Not long later, the two of them gathered together. Qin Feiyang asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house nodded and asked, "What about you?" Qin Feiyang said, "I didn't encounter any danger. What were you looking for just now?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house looked around and said, "I feel like something is following me, but every time I look back, there's nothing there." "You actually noticed this too?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "What is it? You've encountered it too?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house was surprised. "Yes, I also saw a blood-red light, but because it was too fast, I didn't see its true appearance clearly," Qin Feiyang said solemnly. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house's heart sank. She scanned the plains and said uneasily, "I keep having an ominous feeling. Let's leave this place quickly." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "Let's go find the white-eyed wolf first. It's in the northeast." "Northeast? We're in the southeast right now. Isn't it the opposite?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "There's nothing I can do about it. The white-eyed wolf is the closest to me, so I'll definitely look for it first." "How far is it?" the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house asked. Qin Feiyang said, "According to my estimation, it should be 40 to 50,000 miles. 40 to 50,000 miles is the closest?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house could not help but laugh bitterly. Don't dawdle, let's go, Qin Feiyang urged. He then used phantom steps and turned around to go back the way he came. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house hurriedly chased after him. Just as she was about to catch up to Qin Feiyang, a shocking killing intent flashed across her eyes. His eyes instantly turned blood red. Following closely, she raised her arm and slapped towards Qin Feiyang's head. There was no sound or aura at all. Even Qin Feiyang, who was right in front of him, did not notice it. Qin Feiyang, be careful. However, at the same time, an anxious shout came from the left in the distance. This voice, Qin Feiyang was startled and immediately looked to the left, only to see a woman wearing a light golden dress, waving her hand and shouting as she rushed over. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded on the spot. That woman was actually the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house. Wasn't the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house behind him? When did he run over there? Be careful behind you. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house on the left, seeing that Qin Feiyang did not realize the danger behind him at all, shouted loudly, her heart burning with anxiety. Behind me? Qin Feiyang was startled. He immediately turned his head to look, and his expression immediately changed. How could there be two miss of the Dragon Phoenix house? At the same time, the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house behind him also struck out with her palm, her mouth also releasing a terrifying sinister smile. At this time, it was already too late for Qin Feiyang to dodge, because he discovered it too late. He had never thought that this miss of the Dragon Phoenix house would sneak attack him from behind. However, after all, he had experienced countless life and death situations, and his battle awareness far exceeded that of ordinary people. In the nick of time, he tilted his head to the side, avoiding a fatal blow. At the same time, he activated the battle character art. His long hair and eyes instantly turned blood red, and a monstrous battle intent surged out from his entire body. At the same time that she activated the battle character art, the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house's palm landed, brushing past Qin Feiyang's ear and fiercely slapping his shoulder. Crack! Qin Feiyang's entire shoulder instantly shattered, flesh and blood flying everywhere. The excruciating pain caused his face to contort even more. Moreover, the ground below also shattered with a loud bang, causing dust and smoke to rise in all directions. Damn it! When the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house on the left saw this, she was instantly enraged. Bringing along a terrifying emperor's might, she rushed over. As they approached, without hesitation, she attacked the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house who had ambushed Qin Feiyang with her palm. Tsk tisk. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house laughed sinisterly, and without dodging, she waved her palm. Boom! The two palms met in an instant. A world-destroying aura instantly surged out in all directions like a torrent with the two of them as the center. For a moment, dust flew everywhere. The rumbling sound of the earth collapsing was deafening. In less than 5 breaths of time, the land within a radius of a few hundred miles had turned into a huge sinkhole. Puff. As for the two miss of the Dragon Phoenix house, they were in a stalemate for a moment before spitting out a mouthful of blood and retreating a few hundred feet. Woo! Suddenly, a violent wind blew in this area. The dust that filled the sky immediately surged into the sky along with the violent wind. Who are you? Following closely, a sinister voice sounded. The two miss of the Dragon Phoenix house turned their heads to look, only to see that half a mile away, Qin Feiyang was half kneeling on the ground with a dusty face, his injured shoulder bleeding profusely. He actually didn't die? The two miss of the Dragon Phoenix house were surprised. You want to kill me? You don't have the ability yet. Qin Feiyang slowly stood up, like an enraged beast. He stared at the miss of the Dragon Phoenix house who had ambushed him and shouted, "Who exactly are you?" If he hadn't activated the battle character art in time, he might have really died on the spot. Sk. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house licked her lips, her eyes flashing with a bloodthirsty light. Feiyang, are you all right? The other miss of the Dragon Phoenix house quickly ran to Qin Feiyang's side and asked with concern, I'm fine. Chapter 1434. Although this woman looked exactly the same as the young miss of the Dragon Phoenix house, she was currently filled with hostility. She was completely different from when he first saw her. This meant that this person was very good at disguising himself. However, facing Qin Feiyang's question, the woman kept grinning sinisterly. Her blood-red eyes were like a demon that was choosing people to eat. Not getting an answer for a long time, Qin Feiyang was about to lose his patience. But at this time, the young miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said, "If I'm not wrong, she should be a ghost blood ant." Ghost blood ant. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled as he asked, "Are you talking about the ghost blood ant that is as famous as the ghost snake?" "That's right." The Dragon Phoenix house nodded. Qin Feiyang's face immediately darkened. He had read about the ghost blood ant in an ancient book in the Imperial Palace. This ghost blood ant was the same as the ghost snake, born without aura. However, the abilities of the two were different. The ghost snake's ability was to change the color of its skin and confuse one's vision. As for the ghost blood ant's ability, it was to transform. As long as it was a creature it had seen before, it could transform into the other party's appearance. Moreover, whether it was temperament or smell, there was no difference on the surface. The effect was even better than the illusory form pill. In short, the ghost blood ant was a creature that was very good at camouflage. Qin Feiyang calmed down the shock in his heart, turned to look at the young miss of the Dragon Phoenix house, and asked, "You saw it just now?" Although the ghost blood ant's ability was heaven-defying, there was a prerequisite. Before transforming, it had seen the target of the transformation. In other words, since the ghost blood ant had transformed into the appearance of the young miss of the Dragon Phoenix house, it must have seen her before. "Yes. Not long ago, it ambushed me. However, I discovered it and it escaped. But I didn't expect to meet you and turn into my appearance to confuse you." The young miss of the Dragon Phoenix house said in disgust, "I was careless and didn't see any flaws." Qin Feiyang was also quite vexed. He looked at the ghost blood ant and asked, "How do you know that I know her?" Although the blood spirit ant could transform into the appearance of the Dragon Phoenix house's young mistress, before this, the blood spirit ant did not know that he was acquainted with her. Since they didn't know, how could the blood specter ant have done it so flawlessly? Firstly, you were the one who spoke to me first. Furthermore, you did not have the slightest bit of malice when you spoke. It's not hard to tell. You two know each other from before. Secondly, there is only one possibility for humans to appear here. The miracle has already begun. You are from the outside world. Outsiders who enter the divine sight are either friends or enemies. Do you still remember what you asked me when you saw me? You're asking me if I'm all right? His words are filled with concern. What does this mean? That means you're friends. The blood ghost ant sneered. I see. I didn't expect you to be so smart. It's a pity that you didn't use the right path. Since your identity has been exposed, then quickly reveal your true self. Let me see what you look like, Qin Feiyang said. Although he had seen the blood ghost ant in ancient books, this was the first time he had seen the real thing. SKSK. The blood ghost ant scanned the two of them, and its entire body was suddenly filled with dazzling blood light. The blood ghost ant was directly drowned by the blood light. Although Qin Feiyang and the other could not see the situation inside the blood light, they could clearly sense that a terrifying aura was awakening. Bang! The aura became more and more terrifying. The wind howled, setting off a sandstorm. At this moment, the earth began to tremble violently. Cracks appeared one after another. Accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, they spread out in all directions. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and the other looked at each other and could not help but become vigilant. Bang! In the end, the blood ghost ant's aura suddenly rose to a critical point. This critical point was the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Not good. It should be the ant monarch. The young mistress of the Dragon Phoenix house's expression changed as she said in a deep voice, "Ant monarch." Qin Feiyang was shocked. The ant monarch was more terrifying than ordinary blood ghost ants, because it could command all the blood ghost ants. The fact that you humans have entered this place is a joyous hunt for us. But it's different from outside. Outside, we beasts are the prey, and you humans are the hunters. But here, you humans are the prey, and we beasts are the hunters. Little ones, the hunt begins. The blood ghost ant's voice sounded in the bloodlight. Squeak, squeak, immediately. The entire plane was drowned by an ear-piercing sound wave. Immediately after, blood-red waves emerged from the cracks on the ground. They were everywhere in all directions. Qin Feiyong and the other looked at this scene and could not help but feel their scalps go numb. There were too many of them. They were all blood ghost ants. Some were only the size of a palm. Some were the size of a pot. Some were the size of a dustpan. There were also many blood ghost ants that were more than 10 meters, dozens of meters, and even hundreds of meters in size. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. It was extremely terrifying. They looked very similar to ants. Their entire bodies were blood-red as they swarmed out. The entire ground was trembling and was soon drowned by the blood-red waves. So many. It seems that the blood light I captured earlier was one of them. Qin Feiyong's heart was extremely heavy. It turned out that there were so many blood ghost ants lurking underground. Hee, humans, you didn't expect that there would be a day when you humans would be hunted. The blood light quickly dissipated, and a huge monster appeared in Qin Feiyong and the others' line of sight. It's really an ant queen. The Dragon Phoenix House's young lady's face was as dark as water. This huge monster in front of her was the blood ant that pretended to be her. But compared to the other blood ants, this blood ant was too big. Its body was more than 1,000 feet long, like a huge mountain, standing in front of them, emitting a monstrous aura. The claws under its abdomen were even more terrifying. Each of them was more than 100 feet long, like giant blades, suffused with a dense blood light, revealing a bone-piercing sharpness. So ugly. Using the word ugly to describe you is a bit flattering. Qin Feiyong shook his head. The Ant Queen was stunned. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House was stunned. The blood ghost ants that were swarming over from all directions also stopped in unison and looked at Qin Feiyong strangely. Was this person crazy? He was about to die, and he was still in the mood to criticize? Human, you must pay the price for what you said. Little ones, chop him into 8 pieces for this emperor. After coming back to its senses, the Ant Queen was furious. It raised its head and roared, its vicious aura soaring into the sky. Squeak, squeak, immediately. The blood ghost ants from all directions swarmed towards Qin Feiyong and the others' direction. Their strengths were different. There were 9-star war emperors and 8-star war emperors. But without exception, none of the blood ghost ants that appeared now had a cultivation base lower than the war emperor. In other words, there were hundreds of thousands of emperor beasts charging towards Qin Feiyong and the others' direction. What are you doing? Do you think the trouble isn't big enough? Do you want to deliberately anger it? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House said angrily. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, if we don't anger it, do you think it will let us go just like that? Then do you have any ideas? There are so many blood ghost ants, I can't kill them all. Even if I can kill them all, I will die of exhaustion. Moreover, the Ant Queen is a 9-star war emperor at the peak realm. The most important thing is, who knows how many more blood ghost ants are hiding underground? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyong said, there's always a way out, let's take a look first. Boom. Before he could finish his words, the ground beneath their feet suddenly collapsed. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House was shocked. She hurriedly grabbed Qin Feiyong and retreated. Just as the two of them left, a group of blood ghost ants swarmed out. The leader was the blood ghost ant. It was 50 to 60 feet tall, like a small mountain, and its ferocious aura was monstrous. And its aura had reached the level of a 9-star war emperor. Lowly humans, how dare you offend our emperor, kill? The moment the blood ghost ant appeared, it raised its claws and charged towards Qin Feiyong and the other two. The cold light was oppressive. Scram! The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House shouted. She waved her jade-like hand in the air, and her battle chi roared, turning into a huge wave that rolled over. Clang! The moment the battle chi collided with the sharp claws, a deafening metallic sound was heard. Most importantly, facing the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House's all-out attack, the blood ghost ant's claws were not damaged at all. So hard. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House was dumbfounded. One had to know, She was also a 9-star war emperor. You have to use a battle art to hurt it, Qin Feiyong said. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house said in a deep voice, quickly think of a way. These beasts are stronger than expected. I can't hold on for long. As soon as she finished, she released her aura. Battle chi poured out. Clang! At that moment, sword shadows shot out one after another. In the end, there were a total of 50 sword shadows surrounding the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. Each sword shadow was more than 100 feet long. It was as if they were condensed from ice, and cold currents swept in all directions. This world suddenly seemed to have entered a cold winter, and the cold air was bone-piercing. Qin Feiyong was surprised. Why was the battle art that the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was using similar to the Guiyuan sword art? Ice sword art, / Following the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house's shout, 50 sword shadows cut through the sky, bringing with them a monstrous might as they slashed towards the blood ghost ant. The blood ghost ant did not retreat at all. It raised its claws and slashed towards the sword shadows. Clang! The sword shadows and the sharp claws clashed, creating dazzling sparks. Clang! Suddenly, accompanied by an ear-splitting sound, one of the blood ghost ant's claws broke on the spot. Blood immediately gushed out from the broken part like a fountain. Human, you deserve to die. The blood ghost ant also let out a painful howl. Its huge body directly jumped up from the ground, and then pounced towards the 50 sword shadows and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. The dozens of claws under its abdomen waved crazily, like a meat grinder. Humph! Sword art returned to 1. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house snorted coldly. The 50 sword shadows suddenly merged together, transforming into 1,000 feet long sword shadow. Woo-woo! A cold wind blew. Frost appeared. The sharpness was even greater than before. Chapter 1435. I'll take your life with one strike. / The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion stared coldly at the ghost blood ant. The cold air emitted from her entire body was even more terrifying than the sword shadow. Clang! The sword shadow tore through the air as if it was splitting the heavens and earth apart. With a peerless sharpness, it slashed towards the ghost blood ant. Clang! Immediately, blood light surged. The ghost blood ant let out a wail and was directly split into 2 halves by the sword shadow. Blood flowed down like a waterfall, dyeing the ground red. Following closely, the sword shadow did not stop at all as it slashed towards the ant tide that was crazily surging forward. With a loud bang, the ground in front of him was instantly split open by the sword, creating a huge crack in the abyss. Large numbers of ghost blood ants were buried under the terrifying sword chi. The blood on the ground was like a stream, gurgling and flowing. But the dead ghost blood ants were nothing to the entire ant colony. It wasn't even an exaggeration. These ghost blood ants that died under the sword shadow were probably only 1% of the total. One could imagine how many ghost blood ants were there on the plains. Looking at the densely packed and endless ant tide, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion's heart sank to the extreme. She asked, "Have you thought of a way?" "There's nothing I can do." Qin Feiyong shook his head. After thinking for a long time, "This is the answer you're going to give me?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion glared at him angrily. Her battle chi surged out, turning into a frost storm that roared in all directions. Crack! Wherever the storm passed, a cold current swept across the ground. All the ghost blood ants were frozen by the ice. Following that, she waved her hand again. As the ice shattered, the blood ghost ants trapped within the ice mountain also shattered into pieces. In the blink of an eye, another large group of ghost blood ants died. This woman's methods are indeed not simple, Qin Feiyong muttered. However, there wasn't much point in doing so. This was because there were even more blood ghost ants pouncing on them. "Don't you have an ancient castle?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion said anxiously as she fought with the ants. "The castle can't fly here," Qin Feiyong said. "Can't fly?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion was stunned and asked, "Then what should we do? If this continues, I'll be exhausted to death sooner or later. Qin Feiyang said, the only way is to kill our way out. Kill our way out? When the Dragon Phoenix Pavilions misheard this, she could not help glaring at him. There were so many blood spectre ants, and many of them were 9-star battle emperors. Furthermore, there was an ant emperor eyeing them from the side. It would be strange if they could kill their way out. Qin Feiyang said, trust me, we definitely can. Seeing the confidence on Qin Feiyang's face, the people from Longfeng Pavilion calmed down. I need a lot of fresh blood. Slaughter, begin. Qin Feiyang scanned the surrounding ant tide. Suddenly, his aura changed drastically, and a monstrous killing intent surged out. At the same time, a bloody, killed character appeared between his eyebrows. That was right. It was the kill symbol art. As soon as the word kill appeared, a violent wind suddenly blew in this world. The blood on the ground turned into rivers of blood that flooded the sky and flowed into the space between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. Boom! Qin Feiyang's cultivation instantly soared to 5-star battle emperor. So that's how it is. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilions came to a realization and attacked even more fiercely. Various battle arts continuously evolved, emitting a world-destroying aura. Woo-woo! Squeak, squeak. The blood spectre ants that were crazily swarming died one after another. Not a single drop of blood was left, all absorbed by the killed character between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. Boom! His cultivation soared once again. 6-star battle emperor. What's going on? The ant emperor looked at Qin Feiyang, its huge eyes filled with shock. Previously, he was fine after being hit by its palm. Now, his cultivation had broken through consecutively. Why was this human's performance so unbelievable? Another dozen breaths passed. Blood gathered into a river. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's entire body was drowned in blood. The killing intent emitted from his body was even more shocking. Boom! His cultivation had once again soared to 7-star battle emperor. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, the ant emperor made a strange sound. Seeing Qin Feiyang's change, it couldn't help but feel uneasy. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilions looked at it in shock. The next moment, a surprising scene appeared. The ant tide that was surging from all directions suddenly stopped and burrowed into the ground without looking back. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the blood spectre ants on the plain were gone. What is it doing? Could it be that it was frightened by Qin Feiyang's aura and is preparing to escape? The Dragon Phoenix Pavilions frowned, but very soon, her imagination was swallowed up by reality. The blood spectre ants had basically all burrowed into the ground, but there was still a portion left on the plain. There should be more than 2,000 of them. But, although there were only more than 2,000 blood spectre ants now, each blood spectre ant was 50 to 60 feet in size. They were like small mountains, waving their sharp claws, looking incomparably ferocious. And the blood spectre ants of this size were all 9-star battle emperors without exception. In other words, the ant emperor had already seen that Qin Feiyang's sudden increase in cultivation was related to blood, so it dismissed those weak blood spectre ants, leaving only these powerful subordinates. In this way, the two of them would no longer be able to kill wantonly. Without killing, there would be no blood. Without blood, Qin Feiyang's kill formula would not have much effect. To be able to see through the kill formula so quickly, one had to admit that the ant emperor was really smart. The ant emperor looked at the two of them and smiled contemptuously. It waved its claws and shouted, "Kill them for me!" Swoosh! The 2,000-plus blood spectre ants immediately moved on the plain. Although they were very big, their speed was extremely fast. Even Qin Feiyang could only catch their shadows. In less than 5 breaths, more than 2,000 blood spectre ants formed a circle, surrounding Qin Feiyang and the ant emperor in the center. Boom! Following closely, the ferocious aura of a 9-star emperor beast erupted in unison. Waves of blood rushed out from their bodies, turning into a blood-colored sea. With a destructive aura, it pounced towards Qin Feiyang and the ant emperor in the center. The ground cracked crazily, and dust flew everywhere. Seeing this, the heart of the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house sank to the bottom. One had to know, These were more than 2,000 nine-star emperor beasts. Even a nine-star war emperor at the peak realm would die in the face of such a bombardment, let alone her. She looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's entire body was still drowned in blood, and she couldn't see what he was doing at all. Although the other blood specter ants had already retreated, there were too many blood specter ants that had died at the hands of the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. In a short while, Qin Feiyang was still unable to absorb all the blood. The blood-colored sea roared in the air, its baleful aura covering the sky and the earth. Just the baleful aura alone caused the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house to feel as if she had suffered a heavy blow. Her delicate body trembled, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. She couldn't help but feel a sense of powerlessness in her heart. Drag it out a little longer. Qin Feiyang's voice suddenly came out from the blood. Heard of it? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house gritted her teeth, and waves of cold air continuously emerged from her body. Li water scripture, first move, weak water. She waved her hands, and the cold air around her immediately surged up, turning into waves of water that pounced towards the blood-colored sea. Crash! Boom! The waves surged into the sky, slapping the air and emitting a shocking divine might. Obviously, this Li water scripture was a divine art. Once the divine art was out, who could compete with it? The waves rolled forward with unstoppable force. The blood-colored sea continued to collapse, and the bodies of the 2,000 blood specter ants in the surroundings were also trembling. Squeak, squeak. Finally, accompanied by wails, more than 2,000 blood specter ants flew out in unison, spitting out blood from their mouths. It works? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was surprised. Originally, she thought that the divine art might not be a match for it. This was because there were too many blood specter ants on the other side, but she didn't expect that the result would be so easy to destroy. In an instant, her confidence soared. Her slender jade-like finger pointed in the air, and the roaring waves in the air became even more turbulent and ferocious, pouncing towards the blood specter ants. Squeak! But at this moment, the ant queen let out that strange sound again. The 2,000 blood specter ants that were sent flying immediately became spirited and stabilized their huge bodies. Immediately, a bloody light swept out from the top of their heads. More than 2,000 streaks of bloody light soared into the sky and quickly intertwined. Clang! In the next moment, a huge sharp claw appeared in the sky. The sharp claw was curved and could be thousands of feet long. It was completely blood-red, like the scythe of a death god, its sharpness tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. Seeing the appearance of this sharp claw, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house's expression changed, and her previous confidence disappeared. This was because this sharp claw actually carried a strong divine might. Human, don't underestimate us blood specter ants. As long as we unite, the strength we can unleash will exceed your imagination. The ant queen sneered. Die, you ant! The 2,000-plus blood specter ants also roared in unison. Their sharp claws carried a peerless sharpness as they descended from the sky and smashed into the waves. Boom! A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The waves immediately exploded and dissipated into nothingness. Then, the sharp claw tore through the sky, creating an ear-piercing sound as it flew towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. At this moment, even the void was distorted. With the divine art broken, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was deathly pale. She stared at the sharp claw, a cold light flashing in her eyes. She suddenly roared, Li Water Sutra, second move, shocking waves. The cold air appeared once again, turning into a huge wave that rolled out. Boom! The moment the two met, the world trembled. A world-destroying wave of air crazily rolled out in all directions, and the land within 1,000 miles fell. Qin Feiyang also immediately swept up the blood around his body and entered the ancient castle. Puff! The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was once again severely injured. Blood spurted out of her anger, and her face was completely pale. The 2,000-plus blood specter ants were also trembling. It was very obvious. The second move of the Li Water Sutra, shocking waves, was a level stronger than the first move, weak water. It's only as the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house sneered. Is that so? The Ant Queen cackled, and a monstrous blood light suddenly rushed out from her 1,000 feet tall body. It streaked across the sky and fused with the sharp claw. Boom! The sharp claw suddenly shook in the air as if it had been injected with chicken blood, releasing a divine might that was even more terrifying than before. At the same time, the sharp claw expanded crazily, as if a peerless, ferocious creature was awakening. At this moment, Chapter 1436. Finally, the sharp claws that were originally thousands of feet long directly expanded to more than 10,000 feet, and their sharpness could destroy the world. The stalemate that had been going on all this time also collapsed at this moment. The raging waves that were blocking the sharp claws continued to collapse. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also kept retreating, blood gushing out of her mouth. Waves were surging in his heart. It was just a group of beasts. How could they unleash such terrifying battle prowess? The creatures in this miracle could not be looked at with ordinary eyes. Let's see if you can still survive this time. The Ant Emperor laughed sinisterly and waved his claws in the air. That sharp claw shattered the second move like a hot knife through butter and mercilessly charged towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Before it even got close, that terrifying aura came crashing down. The ground beneath the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion cracked inch by inch. That astonishing pressure made the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion panic. Lee Water Scripture's third move, Black Water. She gritted her teeth and once again evolved the divine art. The cold ice aura surged, and waves of water appeared once again. But what was different from before was that the water that appeared now was actually black, like ink. However, the destructive power emitted by this black water was several times greater than before. Crash! The black water was like a torrent as it aggressively collided with the sharp claws. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening sound, the two of them were in a stalemate in the air again. They were evenly matched. What? The Ant Emperor was shocked. Obviously, he didn't expect the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to have such a powerful move. But soon after, its eyes were filled with disdain, as if it was looking at ants. Little ones, come out for this emperor. It let out a long howl. Crack. Squeak, squeak. Immediately, the earth shattered. The ghost blood ants that had sneaked into the ground earlier once again rushed out from the cracks. They were densely packed and innumerable. As soon as they appeared, they were led by the 2009 Star War Emperor Ghost Blood Ants. Waves of blood chi rushed out from their bodies and continuously surged towards the sharp claws. Boom! The sharp claws began to grow larger again, and their ferocious might became stronger. The black water was already showing signs of collapsing. These damned beasts, are they done yet? Even with the temperament of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's young lady, she could not help but feel angry and aggrieved at this moment. Lowly human, you can slowly taste despair. The Ant Queen laughed heartily. Like a king, she looked down at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. With the continuous addition of blood chi, the aura of the sharp claws became more and more terrifying. Boom! All of a sudden, the black water dispersed. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion spat out another mouthful of blood. There was a sense of weakness between her brows that could not be dispersed. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to endure the continuous heavy injuries. You've completely pissed me off. Her eyes suddenly flashed with a shocking light. Frost chi poured out like a waterfall, going against the flow and rushing into the sky. Voila! The next moment, a vast ocean appeared in the sky above the plain. But the strange thing was, the other half was black water. Half of it was clear cold water. Other than the fact that it was a little cold, it was no different from normal seawater. As the wind roared, huge waves rose from both sides, covering the sky. Lightning of water. At this moment, the gaze of the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion became incomparably sharp, like the edge of a blade. As her voice fell, the black water and the frigid water suddenly blended together. Gotcha! Boom! Immediately, A miraculous scene appeared. The two types of seawater intertwined and actually turned into streaks of black and white lightning power. The sound of thunder resounded through the heavens and the earth, and every bolt of lightning contained a divine might that could destroy the heavens and the earth. All of you, be destroyed. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion raised her head and roared. Her clothes fluttered, and her black hair danced wildly. She was like an ice fairy that had descended to the world. Gotcha! Immediately, the power of thunder and lightning that roared in the sky was like the curtain of the Milky Way, pouring down in torrents. Before the power of thunder and lightning landed, some of the weaker blood ghost ants screamed miserably. Under that terrifying divine might, their bodies exploded and blood splattered in all directions. Emperor, her divine art is too powerful. I'm afraid we're not her match. The more than 2,009 Star War Emperor blood ghost ants couldn't help but look at the Ant Emperor worriedly. Don't panic. We still have countless companions. As long as we work together, even if she has heaven-defying abilities, she won't be able to escape death today. Brats below, quickly support this Emperor. The Ant Emperor roared. Boom! The ground suddenly trembled violently. Streams of blood, she continued to shatter the ground and rushed out from the depths of the ground. There were millions of them. If one were to look down from the sky now, they would definitely be stunned by this shocking scene. The entire plain was enveloped by blood chi, and all the blood chi was rushing towards the sharp claws. The sharp claws grew bigger and bigger. 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet. In the end, it exceeded 5,000 feet. It was like a huge mountain in the sky in front of the Ant Emperor. That monstrous, ferocious aura had increased by several times. No matter how you struggle, you're destined to become a delicious meal in this Emperor's mouth today. The Ant Emperor looked down at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Its fierce eyes were suffused with a bloodthirsty light. The other blood ghost ants also flashed with a fierce light and laughed sinisterly. Clang! As the Ant Emperor waved its claws, the sharp claws immediately rushed into the sky and faced the power of thunder and lightning. Gotcha! Clang! The power of thunder and lightning crazily bombarded the sharp claws. Gradually, traces of cracks appeared on the sharp claws. However, the power of thunder and lightning immediately dissipated when it hit the sharp claws. How could this be? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's weak face was filled with disbelief. Even the fourth move of the Lee Water True Scripture was unable to break the killing move of these beasts. She suddenly lowered her head to look at the ground. Just how many blood specter ants were hidden underground? Gotcha! With the last loud sound, all the power of thunder and lightning was annihilated. The sharp claws were also shattered. However, with the continuous influx of blood chi, the broken parts were all repaired in less than 3 breaths. The aura it emitted was once again restored to its peak state. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was dumbfounded when she saw this scene. If it was repaired so quickly, didn't that mean that the previous battle was meaningless? Now, she was already covered in wounds. How could she face this group of terrifying creatures? However, she was really unwilling to lose her life as soon as she entered the divine ruins. Qin Feiyong, what are you doing, you bastard? If you don't come out to help, just wait to collect my corpse. She roared angrily. Even if that human comes out, to me, he is just a delicious meal. The Ant Emperor laughed sinisterly and waved his claws. The sharp claws immediately soared into the sky and charged straight towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Everyone is a delicious meal in your eyes. Are you that hungry? But at this moment, a playful voice suddenly sounded. Following closely, Qin Feiyong appeared out of thin air in front of the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and his killing intent soared into the sky, as if a god of death had returned, and the arm that was previously shattered had already been reborn. The Ant Emperor sized up Qin Feiyong, his pupils constricting. He had actually broken through to the 8-Star War Emperor. What kind of heaven-defying divine art did this person master? However, a mere 8-Star War Emperor was nothing. The Ant Emperor laughed mockingly, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "That's right, this emperor is too hungry, because it has been too long since I tasted the flesh and blood of you humans." Hee hee. Qin Feiyong smiled, looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion behind him, and said, "I'm sorry to have made you wait. Why did you only break through to the 8-star War Emperor?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion frowned. "The blood just now was only enough for me to stack my cultivation to the 8-star War Emperor." Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly. "Then what should we do?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion immediately panicked. Even she, a 9-star War Emperor, was no match for the Ant Emperor, let alone Qin Feiyong, who was only an 8-star War Emperor. "What should we do?" Qin Feiyong glanced at the Ant Emperor and the surrounding blood ghost ants. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he said, "Even if it's just an 8-star War Emperor, it's enough to kill them all." Boom. Roar. As soon as he finished, accompanied by a loud dragon roar, the divine dragon seal instantly appeared out of nowhere, and its mighty divine might shook the surroundings. Divine art? The Ant Emperor was slightly stunned. He looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and said contemptuously, "You'd better tell him now that it's impossible for the divine art to defeat me, not to mention that he's only an 8-star War Emperor. Don't waste your energy." The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was silent as she stared at the divine dragon seal. Her heart was filled with great confidence towards the divine dragon technique. Qin Feiyong also turned a deaf ear. He raised his hand and waved gently. The divine dragon seal immediately expanded in the wind and rushed into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it grew to thousands of feet. It was like a meteorite, emitting a monstrous might. The sharp claws also came down. Boom. The two colossal creatures collided with a loud bang. The divine dragon seal shattered on the spot, and the purple-gold divine light illuminated the sky. A trace of blood also flowed out from the corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth, but at the same time, the sharp claws also broke with a crack. The Ant Emperor was dumbfounded. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was in high spirits. Although the sharp claws were not directly shattered, one had to know that Qin Feiyong was only an 8-star War Emperor now. If it was a 9-star War Emperor, he would definitely be able to crush them easily. This also proved that the Divine Dragon technique could completely defeat these Blood Spectre ants. This was because the second and third forms of the Divine Dragon technique were more powerful than the first form. It also proved that the Divine Dragon technique's level was higher than Hurley Water Scripture. "It seems that I've underestimated you, but it doesn't matter because no matter what you do, you can't completely destroy it." The Ant Emperor, who came back to his senses, smiled contemptuously at Qin Feiyong. Blood chi surged and crazily rushed into the sharp claws. Clang! The sharp claws that were broken in two immediately began to repair. "This is a little interesting." Qin Feiyong looked at the sharp claws curiously. Even though Zhang Xian had no idea how the claw came to be, he could tell from its current appearance that it was a god artifact. Strictly speaking, it was even more terrifying than a divine artifact. This was because divine artifacts were divided into grades and grades. With grades, there was a limit. However, this sharp claws did not have a limit. The more blood spectre ants there were, the stronger their overall cultivation and the greater its power. There was no limit to it. It could be said that this kind of creature was favored by the heavens and envied by others. In the blink of an eye. Chapter 1437. You've been arrogant for so long. It's time to shut you up. Qin Feiyong murmured. Boom. His aura changed drastically. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were filled with blood-red light. He looked like a demon god. Seeing this, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house narrowed her eyes and quickly retreated. At this moment, Qin Feiyong gave her a great sense of danger. Supreme Emperor! Qin Feiyong roared. A statue suddenly appeared above his head. Purple-gold divine light illuminated the sky. At the same time, a terrifying emperor's aura spread out in all directions with the statue as the center. At this moment, all the blood spirit ants could not help but feel a sense of fear in their hearts. In front of the Qin Emperor, all our ants. Kill. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. His voice was like a bell, shaking the heavens and earth. Clang. The statue immediately raised the broken sword in his hand. The broken sword shone brightly, releasing a world-destroying sharpness. Clang. The sword fell. The sharp claws immediately broke. Then they cracked. Finally, accompanied by a deafening sound, the broken claws shattered into pieces in the void, turning into blood qi and dissipating between heaven and earth. Puff. Suddenly, the Ant Queen spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, the more than 2,000 nine-star combat emperors also staggered back. Their eyes were filled with weakness. As for the other blood ghost ants, the backlash they suffered was even greater. Some of the weaker blood spirit ants even exploded and died on the spot. Blood splattered across the sky. The blood spirit ants in the depths of the ground were not spared either. They all suffered a serious backlash. This piece of land was instantly drowned in blood. The smell of blood was pungent. How is this possible? The Ant Queen muttered to herself. Isn't this completely destroyed? What's so difficult about it? Qin Feiyong smiled coldly. An even more terrifying murderous aura rushed out from between his eyebrows. The Ant Queen hurriedly looked over. The word kill between Qin Feiyong's eyebrows was emitting a boundless blood-red light. The blood on the ground flowed continuously. Boom. In less than 3 breaths, Qin Feiyong's cultivation rose once again and broke through to the 9-star combat emperor realm. The Ant Emperor was dumbfounded. The other blood spectre ants were also dumbfounded, following closely. Their hearts were shrouded by a strong sense of unease. Next, you will step into the abyss of despair, just like how you dealt with my companions earlier. Qin Feiyong stomped on the ground, and with the help of the penetrating force, he leaped several hundred feet high. Although they couldn't fly here, they could still jump. The kill symbol formula was still absorbing blood, and his cultivation was still growing bit by bit. At this moment, he was like a falcon that flashed towards the Ant Emperor like a bolt of lightning. You're courting death. The Ant Queen was enraged. It raised the claws under its abdomen and slashed toward Qin Feiyong. A little ant dares to be arrogant in front of me? Qin Feiyong smiled disdainfully and punched out with his bare hand. Clang! The claw shattered on the spot. The Ant Emperor let loose a howl of agony as its massive body flew through the air. What kind of monster is he? He's actually so strong. Seeing this scene, the ants were incomparably shocked. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was also dumbfounded. A single punch had shattered the Ant Emperor's sharp claws, and it was even a bare-handed collision. When did this guy's physical fitness and strength become so terrifying? The massacre has officially begun. Qin Feiyong landed on the ground, scanned the ants around him, and suddenly grinned. The ants immediately became chaotic. The smile on Qin Feiyong's face, in their eyes, was like the smile of a devil, causing them to instinctively feel panic. Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyong used the Phantom Step and instantly landed in front of a 9-star War Emperor's Blood Spectre ant and punched it. A miserable howl. That Blood Spectre ant died on the spot. All the blood was absorbed by the kill symbol formula. So fast. Everyone, run. The ant colony immediately fell into chaos. Run? Qin Feiyong smiled contemptuously and waved his hands. Divine might erupted. An invisible force roared out. The 4 moves of the void returning art: landslide, earth-splitting, sky-splitting, and void returning instantly appeared. Now is the time for you to truly despair. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a ferocious light as he waved his hand. The 4 god arts immediately broke through the air like 4 meteorites. Divine might shook the sky and blasted towards the north, south, east, and west directions. Boom. Crack. The ground suddenly cracked, and ravines appeared everywhere. A large number of blood spectre ants, without any room to resist, were directly turned into ashes. Boom. It was also at this moment. Qin Feiyong's aura skyrocketed once again. 9-star War Emperor, Peak Realm. Run. The Ant Emperor roared. The swarm of ants immediately scrambled to escape into the ground. Eclipse. Mystic moon. Eclipse of the moon. Qin Feiyong said coldly. The three god arts appeared, and the mighty divine might shook this world. Oh my god, how does he have so many god arts? The Ant Emperor's eyes were wide open, and his eyeballs were about to fall out. A sense of despair arose in his heart. A casual wave of his hand, and a god art appeared. How was he going to play this game? Rumble. The three god arts blasted towards three different directions, and a large number of blood spectre ants died on the spot. Don't kill them. I beg you, let them go. The Ant Emperor's body and mind trembled as he hurriedly shouted at Qin Feiyong. Weren't you very arrogant just now? However, it's too late to beg for mercy now. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly, with a wave of his hand. The 4 moves of the Void Returning Art, the 3 moves of Eclipse of the Sun and Moon were instantly displayed. The 7 god arts floated above Qin Feiyong's head, exuding divine might. The void was violently distorted, and the ground was crazily collapsing. It was like the scene of the end of the world. No, the Ant Emperor murmured, and his heart was completely drowned in despair. He had never thought that this ant-like 4-star combat emperor would not only forcefully break through to the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm, but also master so many god arts. If he had known earlier, he would not have dared to be so presumptuous. The 7 god arts roared in the sky, and the surrounding 1,000 miles were shrouded in divine might. Those blood spectre ants that had not yet burrowed into the ground uncontrollably, and their hearts were filled with fear. I beg you, don't kill them. The Ant Emperor rushed to Qin Feiyong at lightning speed, and with a plop, he lay on the ground and begged, as long as you don't kill them, I am willing to do anything. No need. Qin Feiyong shook his head, and his expression was ruthless and cold. I am very familiar with this place, and I will definitely be of help to you. If you really insist on killing us, we will not sit still and wait for death. You should know that if we self-destruct together, even if you have heaven-defying abilities, you will not be able to escape death. The Ant Emperor did not give up and continued to beg with a trace of threat. Then why don't you try self-destructing? Qin Feiyong sneered. Back in the Endless Sea, even the self-destruction of Yiglao, a fake god, was unable to harm the ancient castle, let alone a group of war emperors. Do you really want to do this? The Ant Emperor slowly crawled up, his blood-red eyes filled with madness. Qin Feiyong looked at it coldly. Feiyong, keep it. But at this moment, the mist of the Dragon Phoenix house rushed over and stopped Qin Feiyong. Did you almost die in its hands just now? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. I know, but now we do need it. For example, the problem of water sources must be solved as soon as possible. The mist of the Dragon Phoenix house said. Qin Feiyong lowered his head and fell silent, his brows tightly knitted. Water source? The Ant Emperor's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, I know where the water source is. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked, Where? The mist of the Dragon Phoenix house also looked at it expectantly. The Ant Emperor said, The water source is located in the northeast direction. It's a bit far from here. I can bring you there. Northeast direction. Isn't that the direction of the white-eyed wolf? Qin Feiyong muttered. He looked at the Ant Emperor and said, I can let you go, but you have to sign a slave seal with me first. Slave seal? He was doubtful. It's a divine art that can control your soul. If you dare to go against me, I only need a thought to wipe out your soul. Qin Feiyong said. What? The Ant Emperor's eyes trembled. In this way, wouldn't it be equivalent to giving his life to this human? You have no choice. If you sign the slave seal, you can either die. The mist of the Dragon Phoenix house said. The Ant Emperor's body trembled, and he hurriedly nodded. All right, I agree. But when you leave, you have to help me remove the slave seal. Sure. The mist of the Dragon Phoenix house nodded. The Ant Emperor said, Then tell me, what should I do? Qin Feiyong said, First, cripple your own cultivation. Cripple my cultivation? The Ant Emperor was stunned. These two couldn't be playing tricks on him, right? First, they would lie to it and make it cripple its own cultivation. Then, they would be able to kill it as easily as blowing off dust. It wouldn't even have the chance to self-destruct. Qin Feiyang said impatiently. I don't want to waste my breath. Hurry up and decide. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix House looked at the Ant Emperor and said, Right now, you can only choose to believe us, because even if you self-destruct, you won't be able to pose any threat to us. Seeing how confident the miss of the Dragon Phoenix House was, the Ant Emperor gritted his teeth and directly crippled his sea of qi. Qin Feiyang also immediately dispersed the divine art, and then formed a seal. A slave seal instantly appeared and rushed into the Ant Emperor's head. Oh! The Ant Emperor immediately howled miserably, rolling on the ground and roared. You humans really can't be trusted. But very quickly, the pain in its mind disappeared. What's going on? He turned around and crawled up, his eyes filled with bewilderment. Qin Feiyang said, The slave seal has been completed. Quickly consume the spirit sea pill and repair the sea of qi. It's already completed? The Ant Emperor was stunned. Why didn't it feel any change? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and secretly activated the slave seal. The Ant Emperor immediately lay on the ground again, screaming in pain. The aura of death assaulted his face. When Qin Feiyang stopped channeling the slave seal, the intense pain instantly disappeared. How do you feel now? Qin Feiyang looked at it mockingly. The Ant Emperor hurriedly got up and said with a flattering smile, Don't worry, I will definitely serve you honestly in the future. That's for the best. Time is of the essence. Quickly consume the spirit sea pill, Qin Feiyang said. Spirit sea pill? The Ant Emperor was slightly startled and asked, Are you talking about the kind of pill that can repair the sea of qi? Qin Feiyang nodded. I don't have one. Chapter 1438. No. Qin Feiyang and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House looked at each other. The Ant Emperor smiled bitterly and said, Look here. There's not even a blade of grass. How can there be pills? That's not right. Since ancient times, many people have entered the divine ruins. Haven't you obtained any pills? Qin Feiyang said. There must be. However, the divine ruins only open once every 10,000 years. The pills obtained are not enough for us. The Ant Emperor said. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded, took out a spirit sea pill, and threw it to the Ant Emperor. The Ant Emperor looked at the spirit sea pill in surprise. It actually had 6 pill patterns. It looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, Did you refine it? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Not to mention 6 pill patterns, he could even refine 7 pill patterns now. Amazing. You must be a big shot in the outside world. The Ant Emperor said in admiration and swallowed the spirit sea pill. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, turning into a majestic energy that surged into his energy sea. His energy sea immediately began to repair. Big shot? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Then he shook his head and smiled. This guy was quite cute. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House also smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang. Did you forget something? What? Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at her suspiciously. Think about it yourself. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House said with a hint of playfulness in her eyes. Qin Feiyang frowned and lowered his head to ponder for a moment. Suddenly, he slapped his head and finally remembered that he hadn't removed the slave seal for the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House. He didn't hesitate and immediately removed the slave seal for the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House. Seeing Qin Feiyang so straightforward, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House was also surprised. I thought you would take the opportunity to negotiate with me. What kind of person am I? You and your mother didn't pursue the matter of me snatching the divine crystal. Whether you believe it or not, I'm grateful in my heart. How can I repay kindness with evil? Qin Feiyang said unhappily. So you're saying that I'm gauging the heart of a gentleman with my own mean measure? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion laughed. You're not a villain. You're a woman. Qin Feiyang laughed mischievously. The Longfeng Pavilion's young lady's face turned black as she said angrily, Are you seeking death? You even dare to take liberties with me? So what if I teased you? Qin Feiyang waved his hand disdainfully. How is it? The miss of the Longfeng Pavilion muttered. The corners of her mouth gradually curled up into a teasing smile as she muttered, "Little fellow, you'll know in the future." Immediately after, she gathered her thoughts and asked, "Where are we going next?" Looking for the white-eyed wolf. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he looked at the Ant Emperor and said, "Prepare to set off immediately. If you have any instructions, go and tell them quickly." "All right." The Ant Queen nodded her huge head and ran to the side. She called a few 9-star combat Emperor Blood Ghost ants and whispered to them. Not long later, the few 9-star combat Emperor Blood Ghost ants suddenly raised their heads and roared. All of the Blood Ghost ants immediately burrowed into the ground. "Emperor, take care. We'll wait for your return." After exhorting the Ant Emperor, the few 9-star combat Emperor Blood Ghost ants also burrowed into a crack in the abyss and disappeared. To think that this emperor, with such a noble bloodline, would actually be reduced to being the subordinate of a human. How sad. The Ant Emperor sighed deeply, turned around and ran to Qin Feiyang, and said flatteringly, "We can set off now?" Qin Feiyang did not answer, and looked at the Ant Emperor from head to toe. "Why are you looking at me?" The Ant Emperor was suspicious. Qin Feiyang suddenly shook his head and said indifferently, "I really don't know. How is your bloodline, noble?" How do you know what I'm thinking?" The Ant Emperor was bewildered. Qin Feiyang did not answer. He leaped up and landed on the Ant Emperor's back. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house also jumped up and stood beside Qin Feiyang. She secretly laughed. "Why don't you tell it that you can peek into its inner thoughts? If I tell it, won't I be unable to know what it's really thinking?" Qin Feiyang secretly replied, then waved his hand and said, "Let's go." The Ant Emperor ran towards the northeast with a stomach full of suspicions. With its enormous body, it was like a heavy-duty motorcycle. Wherever it went, the earth trembled and rumbled. However, right now, its qi had not recovered, so its speed was relatively slow. Qin Feiyang was not in a hurry. He sat cross-legged on the back of the Ant Emperor and consumed a battle qi pill to recover his lost battle qi. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was also recuperating. The scorching high temperature roasted the earth. Both of them were drenched in sweat. Especially after the previous battle, the water in their bodies was severely lacking. Their lips were already dry and cracked. Especially the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. Her clothes were drenched in sweat, and some parts of her body were stuck to her skin. But now, Qin Feiyang was not in the mood to pay attention to this. He only wanted to find a water source as soon as possible and soak in it comfortably for a while. Dong. After the Ant Emperor's qi was repaired, although it was unable to fly, its speed was as fast as lightning. About half an hour passed. The end of the plains finally appeared in front of them. Qin Feiyang stood up and looked up, only to see that outside the plains, there was an endless mountain range. Mountain streams rose and fell. There were giant peaks that were thousands of feet tall. There were mountain ridges that were hundreds of miles long. But without exception, the mountains were the same as the plains. Not a single blade of grass grew on the dry and cracked earth, causing people to stop in their tracks. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Ant Emperor, has it never rained here before?" "It has, but it's very rare to encounter one. To be able to rain once every 8 or 10 years. To the living beings of this continent, it is already a blessing from the heavens." The Ant Emperor said, "Then how do you survive?" The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion said, "On one hand, we are already used to this kind of harsh environment. On the other hand, we all live underground because it's cooler underground. Not only us ghost blood ants, but also the creatures of other places. As for places with water sources, at this point, the Ant Emperor fell silent, a deep sense of fear appearing in his eyes. "Continue speaking," Qin Feiyang said. The Ant Emperor sighed. "Places with water sources are usually guarded by powerful berserk beasts. They occupy the water sources and do not allow any living beings to approach them. If anyone dares to force their way in, they will definitely die." "So domineering?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, "Then what kind of berserk beast is guarding the water source that you are bringing us to?" "It's a ferocious crocodile. The Ant Emperor said, "How is your cultivation?" Qin Feiyong said, "Nine-star War Emperor Peak Realm." The Ant Emperor said. Qin Feiyong asked, "Aren't you also a nine-star War Emperor Peak Realm? Are you still not its match?" "If I could beat it, I would have already occupied the water source. That crocodile is very scary. Not only is it very strong, it also has a holy artifact. No living being can hurt it," the Ant Emperor said powerlessly. From its tone, it seemed that it had suffered a lot in front of that crocodile in the past. Holy artifact. Qin Feiyong looked at each other, their faces filled with shock. A berserk beast actually had a holy artifact? What an inconceivable thing this was. He didn't expect that just as he entered the divine ruins, he would actually receive news of a holy artifact. Qin Feiyong asked, "How far are we from the water source?" No matter how strong that crocodile was, he was determined to obtain that holy artifact. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house also became excited. The Ant Emperor thought for a moment and said, "Leaving the plains and passing through the mountain range in front of us is the location of the water source. It is estimated to be more than 20,000 miles away." "That's not very far," Qin Feiyong muttered and shouted, "Speed up." The Ant Emperor nodded, waved the claws under its abdomen, and flew towards the mountain range. Rumble. Dong dong. Its body was simply too huge. No matter where it went, the mountains would shake and the earth would shake. Rustle, rustle. At the junction of the plains and the mountain range, there was a 50 to 60-meter tall mountain ridge. At this moment, a group of black spiders was climbing up the mountain ridge from below. But they were different from ordinary spiders. They were very big. The smallest was comparable to a wash basin. The biggest one was several meters long. They gathered on top of the mountain ridge, forming a black mass. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor from afar, their long and narrow eyes flickered with a cold light. As they got closer, Qin Feiyong and the other two also noticed those black spiders. "What the hell is this?" the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house exclaimed, her scalp going numb. "It seems to be the ghost magic spider." Qin Feiyong carefully sized him up and said with a frown, "They are the ghost magic spider," the Ant Emperor said. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other, their expressions becoming serious. Because this was another creature that was as famous as the ghost snake. Moreover, the ghost magic spider, like the ghost snake and the ghost blood ant, also had an extraordinary ability. That was the spider silk they spat out. This kind of spider silk was very thin, but extremely tough. It also carried a strong poison that could numb the nerves of people, including fierce beasts. At first glance, there was nothing to be curious about. After all, there were many poisonous insects or poisonous beasts that had this ability. However, the venom of these poisonous insects and poisonous beasts was far inferior to the ghost magic spider. It could even be said that there was a difference between heaven and earth between the two. No matter who it was, as long as it was a creature of the same realm, once it touched the ghost magic spider's venom, its entire body would instantly enter a state of paralysis. Watch carefully. It was not the same realm, but the same realm. In other words, if there was a one-star War Emperor's ghost magic spider in front of you, then even if you were a 9-star War Emperor, you would be instantly paralyzed, unless your cultivation had already surpassed the War Emperor. Its ability was actually very similar to the white-eyed wolf's innate ability, and could be said to be unsolvable. You don't have to worry. I have a good relationship with the Spider Emperor. As long as I tell it later, it will immediately let us go. Just as the two of them were worried, the Ant Emperor's voice sounded from beneath their feet. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house asked, "Really?" "Yes. We ghost blood ants and their ghost magic spider have been entrenched here for generations. Our relationship is so good that we are like brothers." The Ant Emperor laughed proudly. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix house was immediately overjoyed. She turned to look at Qin Feiyong and secretly laughed. "Listen to me, right? If you had killed it just now, then we would definitely be facing a difficult and bloody battle right now." Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. Chapter 1439. The densely packed demon ghost spiders were lying on the mountain ridge. Their appearance of baring their fangs and brandishing their claws made one's scalp go numb. Dong! The Ant Emperor carried Qin Feiyong and ran to the bottom of the mountain ridge and said proudly, "Quickly go and inform your emperor that an old friend has come to visit. Just you wait." One of the demon ghost spiders glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others, then turned around and quickly disappeared. Not long after, boom! A terrifying might erupted from the depths of the mountain range. Following closely, the earth began to shake violently, and the giant peaks of the mountains were also shaking. It was as if a huge monster was walking towards them. About 100 breaths passed. A giant spider gradually appeared in front of Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor. Its body was over 100 feet long, and its entire body was pitch black. It was filled with an astonishing amount of hostility, and the dozen or so claws below its abdomen were like sickles, emitting a bone-piercing sharpness. The Ant Emperor waved his claws and laughed. "Old brother, we haven't seen each other in a while. How have you been?" The Spider Emperor did not reply. His fierce gaze turned as he sized up Qin Feiyong and the others. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House said in a low voice, "This guy's cultivation is the same as the Ant Emperor's, a 9-star war emperor at the peak of the realm." Qin Feiyong nodded. He had not closed the kill formula yet, so he could see through the Spider Emperor's cultivation with a glance. A cold light flashed past the Spider Emperor's eyes as he looked at the Ant Emperor and said in a deep voice, "Why did you bring 2 humans here and let them ride on your body?" "It's a long story. I'll tell you slowly after this." The Ant Emperor sighed helplessly. The Spider Emperor looked meaningfully at Qin Feiyong and the others and asked the Ant Emperor, "Do you need help?" "No, no, no. I'm willing to do it." The Ant Emperor quickly waved his claws and laughed. "Now, I'm going to bring them to find a water source. Brother, please make an exception." "Find a water source." The Spider Emperor's pupils shrank as he said angrily, "Don't you know that the water source is guarded by that damned crocodile? You still want to bring them there? Do you want to die?" The Ant Emperor replied, "I'm only responsible for leading the way for them. Don't worry, everything will be fine." Listening to the conversation between the two beasts, it could be confirmed that their relationship was indeed not ordinary. "You really don't need any help?" the Spider Emperor asked again. Even though the Ant Emperor said that it was willing to do so, it felt like the Ant Emperor was forced to do so. "No need, no need." The Ant Emperor hurriedly shook his head. "All right, since you don't need it, I won't meddle in other people's business. Little ones, make way." The Spider Emperor shouted. The fiend spirit spiders on the mountain immediately retreated to the side. "Thank you, old brother," the Ant Queen said gratefully before leading Qin Feiyong into the mountain range. After entering the mountain range, the Ant Emperor didn't continue chatting with the Spider Emperor. Instead, it dashed towards the other side of the mountain range. The Spider Emperor stood in front of the mountain ridge and looked at the Ant Queen and Qin Feiyong from afar. After the Ant Queen and Qin Feiyong disappeared, a fiend phantom spider the size of a wash basin crawled in front of the Spider Emperor and asked, "What do we do now, Emperor?" The Spider King said solemnly, "Act according to the plan." "Understood." A group of fiend phantom spiders immediately burrowed into the ground. "Old brother, I'm sorry." The Spider Emperor murmured as it waved its claws and broke the ground, disappearing without a trace. "How was it?" "I'm still useful." In the mountain stream, the Ant Emperor smiled smugly as it ran. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Was it trying to claim credit already? The lady of the Dragon Phoenix House couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. "Don't be too proud. Continue to perform well. When Qin Feiyong is in a good mood, he might give you a great fortune." "What great fortune?" The Ant Emperor was surprised. "A fortune that you can't even dream of." The lady of the Dragon Phoenix House smiled. "Can't even dream of? Is it that exaggerated?" The Ant Emperor immediately pondered. Time passed quietly. About half an hour later, the Ant Emperor led Qin Feiyong and the other into a large canyon. The canyon was very long, and the mountains on both sides were undulating and extremely steep. But it was very narrow inside. It was basically only enough for the Ant Emperor to pass through. Looking down from the sky, the canyon was like a dry river, winding and stretching to the end of the earth. The Ant Emperor said, after passing through this canyon, we'll be almost halfway there. And Qin Feiyang nodded and looked up. For some reason, when he entered the canyon, he felt a sense of uneasiness. Gradually, they had already gone deep into the canyon. Dong! At this moment, on the mountain peaks on both sides of the canyon, an ear-splitting sound suddenly rang out. The entire canyon began to shake at this moment. Hearing the movement, the Ant Emperor immediately braked and stopped. It raised its huge head and scanned the mountain peaks on both sides. Qin Feiyang and the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House also hurriedly looked up. At this moment, the sense of uneasiness in Qin Feiyang's heart also became extremely strong. This was a premonition of danger. This kind of premonition had appeared many times in the past, and every time it appeared, something was bound to happen. Under the gaze of the two men and one beast, on the mountain peaks on both sides, accompanied by rumbling sounds, magic ghost spiders gradually appeared. Seeing these magic ghost spiders, the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House's face immediately turned pale, because those magic ghost spiders were extremely large. Each of them was 50 to 60 feet tall, like a small mountain, and there were a lot of them. They lined up neatly on both sides of the mountain peaks, like a well-trained army of vicious beasts. Because of their size and number, the mountain peaks could not withstand their weight and were collapsing bit by bit. No less than 2,000, all of them 9-star War Emperor. Are they coming out in full force? What do they want to do? The Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House spoke with difficulty. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, in front of him, another loud explosion suddenly sounded out. Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor hurriedly lowered their heads to look, only to see the ground in front of them cracking. The Spider Emperor crawled up from the ground and stood in front of them. The Ant Emperor looked at the Spider Emperor in confusion and asked, "Old brother, what are you doing here? Are you escorting me?" Escort? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched fiercely. What was with this guy's eyes? Didn't he see that this Spider Emperor had ill intentions? Moreover, even if it was an escort, there was no need to go all out. Be careful. Qin Feiyang secretly warned the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House. Yes. The Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House nodded. The Spider Emperor looked at the Ant Emperor, then directly looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. What do you mean? It's coming for us? Seeing this, the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House asked in surprise. Impossible. We've never seen it before, let alone provoked it, Qin Feiyang said. Little ones, do it. Suddenly, the Spider Emperor roared without any warning. Poochie! The fiend specter spiders above immediately opened their bloody mouths and spat out sheets of white spider silk. Chapter 1440. More than 2,000 demon spirit spiders spat out silk at the same time. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it covered the sky and covered the earth. Brother, what do you mean by this? The Ant Emperor roared anxiously. The Spider Emperor remained silent. Qin Feiyang teased, "Didn't you say that you two are like brothers? Do you feel like you've been slapped in the face?" The Ant Emperor was rather embarrassed. Qin Feiyang ignored it and raised his head to look at the Spider Emperor, saying, "I don't care why you're ambushing us here, but let me give you a word of advice. It's best if you get out of the way immediately. The consequences aren't something you can bear." The Spider Emperor was indifferent. The Ant Emperor roared again, "Brother, with our relationship, you can't do this. What is the reason?" The Spider Emperor looked at the Ant Emperor and said, "This has nothing to do with you. I want the two of them." It's really coming for us? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House said, "It's impossible for it to attack us for no reason. There must be something strange about this." Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "Then let's beat it at its own game and see what the reason is." "What do you mean?" The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House was suspicious. Qin Feiyang secretly said a few words. After hearing this, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House immediately said, "This is too risky. I don't agree." "Don't worry, it's fine." Qin Feiyang comforted her and secretly took out the changshui. Then, he sent it directly to the castle with the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House. In the blink of an eye, The dense spider webs had already pounced over. You asked for it. Qin Feiyang stared at the Spider Emperor, a cold light flashing in his eyes, and a red sword chi roared out. 50 sword shadows appeared in the sky in an instant. Guiyuan sword technique. Immediately, tens of thousands of sword chi pounced towards the spider webs. The terrifying sharpness was like an avalanche, tearing apart the mountains and the earth. The canyon was instantly razed to the ground. Clang. However, when the sword chi struck the spider web, an ear-piercing metallic sound rang out, and even sparks appeared. Every strand of spider silk seemed to be forged from divine iron. It was suffused with a dense white light and was incomparably tough. Qin Feiyang's face was full of surprise. One had to know. The Guiyuan sword art was a perfect battle art, but it was unable to cut through the spider silk. However, Qin Feiyang's current cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. As for the demonic spirit spiders, they were merely 9-star combat emperors. As such, the stalemate did not last long before the scales of victory tilted towards Qin Feiyang. Strands of spider silk and spider webs were crushed by the sword chi one after another. Impressive. The Ant Emperor's eyes were filled with admiration. However, right at this moment, the Spider Emperor's enormous body trembled. He opened his mouth wide, and a waterfall of spider silk gushed out from his mouth and pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Humph! Qin Feiyang snorted from his nose. With a wave of his hand, 50 sword shadows suddenly cut through the sky, carrying a shocking sharpness, and slashed towards the spider silk. Clang! A deafening loud sound immediately reverberated between heaven and earth. The 50 sword shadows and the spider silk were destroyed together. Qin Feiyang's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The Spider Emperor also retreated, blood spurting out from his mouth. However, at the same time, the other demonic spirit spiders once again spat out spider silk, forming an airtight large net that enveloped Qin Feiyang. Be careful, the Ant Emperor warned. Qin Feiyang glanced at the large net from the corner of his eye, and a cold smile flashed across his eyes. Then, he pretended to be caught off guard and was enveloped by the large net. The moment Qin Feiyang was enveloped by the large net, his entire body entered a state of paralysis. He couldn't even move his fingers. The Ant Emperor under Qin Feiyang's feet was not spared either. Moreover, after the large net enveloped them, it immediately began to tighten. Soon, the man and the beast were like dumplings, bound to the ground and unable to move. With just this bit of strength, you dare to be arrogant in front of this emperor? The Spider Emperor glanced at Qin Feiyang in disdain, raised his head to look behind Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor, and said respectfully, "Welcome, Master." Master! Qin Feiyang was shocked. The Ant Emperor's heart was filled with disbelief. After knowing the Spider Emperor for so many years, no one knew the situation of the Spider Emperor better than it. There was no master at all. Moreover, with the Spider Emperor's arrogance, he would not submit to anyone. But how could there be a master all of a sudden? However, although they were shocked, their entire bodies were paralyzed and they could not turn their heads to look. They could only hear footsteps. Steady and powerful footsteps approached from afar. Moreover, there was more than one person's footsteps. Judging from the sound, there should be 5 people. Wait, these auras, suddenly. Qin Feiyang sensed a disgusting bloody aura from the aura of these people. This made him involuntarily think of the blood fiend pill, because in this world, only the aura of the blood fiend pill made him feel disgusted. Moreover, one of the auras was especially familiar. The sound of footsteps had already arrived behind Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang could even clearly feel that those people were staring at him, and their eyes were filled with dense killing intent. One of their eyes was filled with unresolvable resentment. Finally, the footsteps bypassed the Ant Emperor and arrived in front of him. A few figures also entered Qin Feiyang's line of sight. There were exactly 5 of them. The person in the lead was a purple-clothed youth with the cultivation of a 3-star war emperor. His figure was tall, and his appearance was heroic. His facial features were also extremely handsome, but there was a shocking hostility between his brows. Behind the purple-clothed youth, there were 4 burly men. Their upper bodies were exposed, and their lower bodies were only wearing a pair of large underpants. Their muscles were bulging, and they were filled with a valiant aura. And the aura they exuded was extremely terrifying. They were all peak Realm 9 Star War Emperor. The purple-clothed youth sneered. I really didn't expect that the insufferably arrogant Qin Feiyong would actually fall into the hands of a group of animals. Qin Feiyong looked at the purple-clothed youth, his eyes flashing with killing intent as he sent a sound transmission. Indeed, I didn't expect to meet you so soon, but I don't understand. Why would the magic ghost spider call you master? This spider silk was truly terrifying. Not only could he not move his body, he could not even move his lips and tongue. Therefore, Qin Feiyong could only communicate with the other party through sound transmission. It's a long story. I'll just tell you briefly so that you can die with understanding. At that time, I entered the divine ruins and descended here. Before I could figure out the situation, I was surrounded by these magic ghost spiders. I thought that I would definitely die this time. After all, these magic ghost spiders are too strong and there are too many of them. However, just as I was trapped by the spider silk and was about to die under their claws, the 4 people behind me suddenly attacked. So they were the same as me, descending in this mountain range. Don't you think that I'm very lucky? The purple-clothed youth sneered. You're quite lucky, Qin Feiyong said. The purple-clothed youth smiled and asked, you should be able to guess who they are, right? Apart from the Imperial Tutor's henchmen, who else can stand beside you? Qin Feiyong harumphed coldly. Lackeys? Whatever you say. Anyway, you're already dead. They're from the inner hall of the enforcement hall, and they're also the Cloud Ancestors' confidants. Therefore, when they saw that I was in danger, they immediately came to save me. They also found the Spider Emperor and destroyed its cultivation. Then, I used the Blood Soul technique to control it. At first, we were going to ask the Spider Emperor to bring us to find a water source, but we didn't expect you to appear at this time. So, I set up a trap and asked the Spider Emperor to let you in first before coming here to ambush you. The purple-clothed youth said. Since he addressed the Imperial Master as the Cloud Ancestor, his identity was clear. He was Zhuge Mingyang. So that's what happened, Qin Feiyong muttered. In other words, the Spider Emperor was forced to do this. He immediately began to plan in his heart. At this time, the Ant Queen looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said, then why did you choose to ambush us here? Because he was afraid. Although he controlled the magic ghost spiders, you have your own subjects. If he chose to attack at the intersection of the plains and the mountain range, it wouldn't benefit him at all. Qin Feiyong said, I see. If he chose to attack here, I wouldn't be able to summon my subjects. The Ant Queen murmured. This human was too terrifying to be able to calculate so carefully. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the Ant Queen, then looked at Qin Feiyong and gave him a thumbs up. He smiled brightly and said, Brother Qin, you're really smart. But what's the use of being smart? You're still in my hands now. Brother Qin, tell me, how do you want to die? The 4 burly men behind him immediately laughed sinisterly. What should we do? The Ant Queen panicked. Don't panic. Answer my question first. You know the Spider Emperor. If I help it get rid of this person's control, will it be grateful to me? Chapter 1441. Of course, not only will it be grateful to you, but it will also attack these people immediately. The Ant Queen transmitted her voice without hesitation. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. The Ant Queen continued, however, can you really help it break free from this person's control? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then I beg you to help it. We've been friends for so many years. I can't bear to see it being manipulated like this. The Ant Queen secretly said with a pleading tone. Qin Feiyong was rather surprised. The Ant Queen actually begged him for the sake of the Spider Emperor. It seemed that the relationship between the Ant Queen and the Spider Emperor was indeed not ordinary. Answer me. How do you want to die? Or are you so desperate now that you don't know how to answer me? Seeing that Qin Feiyong didn't answer, Zhuge Mingyang said impatiently with a mocking look on his face. Qin Feiyong still didn't answer. However, his gaze was as if he was looking at a clown. The Spider Emperor glanced at the Ant Queen and Qin Feiyang, then looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said, "Master, your target is that human. I've already captured him for you. Can you give the Ant Queen a way out and let it go?" Zhuge Mingyang said, "Anyone who is with Qin Feiyang, be it a human or a beast, must die." The Spider Emperor hurriedly said, however, before it could say anything, Zhuge Mingyang waved his hand and said coldly, "Do you think you have the right to negotiate with me in your current situation? I advise you not to challenge my patience again. Otherwise, I'll kill you as well." Hearing this, the Spider Emperor's eyes immediately filled with hostility. However, it could only endure it due to the deterrence of the Blood Soul technique. Zhuge Mingyang smiled disdainfully. He sized up Qin Feiyang and said, "Do you know how much damage you've done to me over the years? Then I'm really sorry." Qin Feiyang chuckled. "You think you can settle this with just an apology? Do you know how everyone is talking about me behind my back? He said that I, Zhuge Mingyang, am no match for you, Qin Feiyang, no matter how hard I try. They said that I, Zhuge Mingyang, am destined to be trampled under your feet for the rest of my life, Qin Feiyang. You even said that I, Zhuge Mingyang, was a complete piece of trash. In the past, my cultivation was so much higher than yours. But in the end, not only did you catch up to me, you even left me far behind. Do you know how much pain I feel every time I hear those words? How much does she hate you?" The more Zhuge Mingyang spoke, the more agitated he became. His hands were tightly clenched, and his eyes were bloodshot. He was like a wild beast that had gone mad. What they said is also the truth. Facing the truth, shouldn't you accept it? Qin Feiyang said indifferently with a playful smile on his face. "Bullshit facts. If you don't have the potential pill, what are you? If you don't have the castle in Changshui, who knows how long you would have been dead? Would you still be so arrogant?" Qin Feiyang, you have to remember that it's not that you are more talented than me, Zhuge Mingyang, but that you are luckier than me. However, luck will run out one day. For example, right now, I can trample on you and torture you however I want." Zhuge Mingyang laughed and took out a dagger. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang said with a hint of panic in his eyes. "What am I doing? All these years, the humiliation you have brought me, and the blood feud of the Zhuge family. Today, I will settle it all with you. From now on, there is no Qin Feiyang in this world, only I, Zhuge Mingyang. Not long after, I, Zhuge Mingyang, will replace the little prince and become the emperor of the Great Qin dynasty. By then, the Great Qin dynasty will no longer be surnamed Qin, but Zhuge." Zhuge Mingyang snickered. "What?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. He thought that the Grand Preceptor was trying to usurp the throne because he wanted to be the emperor. He didn't expect that it was to pave the way for Zhuge Mingyang. "Are you surprised?" "That's right, because you will never know that I am the real chosen one." Zhuge Mingyang sneered. "Chosen one?" Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. "What an ignorant person," he said calmly. "What about the little prince? He is your brother after all. After usurping the throne, what do you plan to do with him?" The people of the Zhuge family didn't know that the little prince was actually the emperor's son. In front of the throne, power, what is family? Take the first prince, for example. Although he is also my father's illegitimate son, and although my father and ancestor Yun asked me to assist him, when the time is right, I will still kill him." Zhuge Mingyang sneered. Qin Feiyang sighed. "You are really cruel." Zhuge Mingyang said, "To achieve great things, one must have courage and means. A soft-hearted and righteous person like you will never achieve great things." Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, "Then do you believe that I will definitely live longer than you? Live longer than me?" Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh, but there was a hint of mockery in his laughter. "You can still say such stupid things at this point. It seems like you still don't understand your current situation. Go and remind him. Let him have a taste of what it is like to live a life worse than death." Zhuge Mingyang waved his hand, and the dagger landed in the hands of a burly man beside him. The burly man smiled sinisterly, grabbed the dagger, and walked towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, "Did you forget something? I sent the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house to the ancient castle. Of course not. But she is just a 9-star combat emperor. What can she do? You must know that we have 4 9-star combat emperors here, and they are all peak realm super experts. If she doesn't come out, she can live a little longer, Zhuge Mingyang said disdainfully. Sigh. Qin Feiyong sighed softly. Why are you sighing? Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows. I am sighing because I am disappointed. Think about it, Zhuge Mingyang. You are such a smart person, but why do you look so stupid in front of me? You've suffered a lot in my hands before, right? Why don't you learn from your mistakes? Do you know? In the past, I still regarded you as an opponent because I felt that although you are a sanctimonious villain, you can also be considered a formidable person. However, what I did not expect was that you were actually refining the blood demon pill. From that moment on, I truly understood that you, Zhuge Mingyang, are actually no different from the Imperial Preceptor. Qin Feiyong sighed. The winner is the king. The loser is the bandit. Regardless of what methods you use, only the winner in this world has the qualifications to stand in the clouds and look down on the common people. Zhuge Mingyang said. Is that so? Then let me tell you, the person standing in the clouds in the end will definitely be me. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a bone-piercing cold light. You? Zhuge Mingyang laughed loudly, looked at the burly man who was walking towards Qin Feiyong, and shouted, Tear his mouth for me. Let's see how arrogant he can be. The burly man nodded. Stupid, Qin Feiyong muttered in his heart. Just as the burly man approached Qin Feiyong and raised the dagger in his hand, Qin Feiyong's eyes suddenly emitted a strong cold light. At the same time, his thoughts moved. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house appeared out of thin air, her beautiful eyes flashing with killing intent as she slapped her palm towards the burly man. You don't know life from death. Zhuge Mingyang and the other 3 burly men immediately looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house, their faces full of ridicule. As for the burly man who was about to attack Qin Feiyong, he also smiled contemptuously, raised the dagger in his hand, and turned to attack the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. You are the ones who don't know life from death, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house said coldly. From within her sleeve, a graceful figure suddenly flew out. It was Chang Shui. What? It's actually Chang Shui. Why is Chang Shui in her hands? Zhuge Mingyang immediately crawled up with a face full of disbelief. In the blink of an eye, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house grabbed Chang Shui and charged forward. Chang Shui and the dagger instantly collided. With a loud clang, the dagger broke on the spot. Is this Chang Shui? As expected, it lives up to its reputation. The burly man's face was filled with shock. Retreat. Zhuge Mingyang was also startled awake by the sound of Chang Shui and the dagger colliding. Then, he hurriedly shouted to the burly man. Too late. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house smiled coldly. She flashed forward and stabbed the burly man's head with her saber. Poochie. Crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard in this place. At this moment, the entire blade of Chang Shui had sunk into the burly man's head. Blood shot out like a blood arrow. This thunder-like method caused the burly man to fall into a momentary daze. Zhuge Mingyang and the other 3 burly men were also dumbstruck. For a moment, this place entered a state of dead silence. However, in the next moment, the burly man suddenly let out a miserable howl. His voice was like a pig being slaughtered, resounding through the world. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house sneered and pulled out Chang Shui. The burly man immediately collapsed powerlessly, and his life force quickly dissipated. Damn it! Kill her for me! Zhuge Mingyang roared as if he had gone mad. Boom! The 3 burly men behind him immediately unleashed their peak auras and charged towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. However, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house turned a blind eye to them. She turned around and looked at Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor, waving the Chang Shui in her hand. 10,000 strands of sword energy, invincible. The tough spider silk was like a withered tree, quickly shattering into pieces. The entire process was smooth and fluid, completed in one go. She landed steadily on the ground again. Die. The three burly men also charged over at this moment. They raised their fists in unison and punched towards the back of the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. Battle chi surged, destroying everything in all directions. Humph! The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house snorted from her nose, grabbed Chang Shui, and waved her hand. Seeing this, the three burly men hurriedly retracted their arms. None of them dared to fight with Chang Shui. At the same time, although the spider silk had been shattered, the numbness on Qin Feiyang's body did not disappear. Without the restraint of the spider silk, he also collapsed on the back of the Ant Emperor, feeling weak all over. Useless thing. Seeing this scene, Zhuge Mingyang flew into a rage. He glared fiercely at the three burly men, then turned to look at the Spider Emperor and shouted, "Quickly order your subjects to attack. As long as you can kill those two humans, I will promise to let your brother, the Ant Emperor." All right. The Spider Emperor nodded and roared, "Little ones, attack!" Chapter 1442. The canyon here had already been razed to the ground. The ghost fiend spiders that had gathered on the mountain peak were now standing on the ground, surrounding not far away. Hearing the Spider Emperor's roar, they immediately roared into the sky, carrying a monstrous ferocious aura as they charged towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion raised her eyebrows and jumped up again, landing in front of Qin Feiyang. She took out an antidote pill with 5 patterns and placed it in Qin Feiyang's mouth. Because the spider silk contained poison, it needed an antidote pill to remove it. Only after the poison in his body was removed could Qin Feiyang regain his freedom. "Hurry up, I can't hold on for long." After saying this to Qin Feiyang, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion turned around and scanned the surrounding ghost fiend spiders. Boom! Her aura swept through the sky like a rainbow. With a wave of her jade-like hand, an icy aura appeared and turned into a stream of water. With a bone-piercing cold current, it rolled out in all directions. Li Water Sutra's first move, weak water. Wherever it went, cold air roared in all directions, and frost covered the ground. The spider silk spat out by the ghost fiend spiders instantly shattered when they encountered the weak water. Divine technique? Zhuge Mingyang's pupils constricted as he looked at the three burly men and said angrily, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and attack." Yes. The three of them suddenly came back to their senses and immediately performed their battle arts. A giant python, a giant black tiger, and a golden battle sword appeared out of nowhere. They were all perfect battle arts. Kill. With a shout from the three of them, the three great battle arts shook violently, releasing a world-destroying aura that charged towards the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. "You overestimate yourself." The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion snorted coldly and waved her hand. The second move of the Li Water Sutra, Shocking Waves, appeared. The giant python, the giant black tiger, and the golden battle sword were instantly shattered by the waves. The three of them spat out a mouthful of blood and hurriedly retreated to Zhuge Mingyang's side. "Young Master Zhuge, although our cultivation is higher than hers, she has a divine technique. We are not her match. I suggest that we retreat immediately," the three of them said solemnly. "Retreat?" Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyang, who was on the back of the Ant Queen, and said angrily, "I finally got this chance, and you want me to retreat? Useless trash." After saying that, he turned to look at the Spider Emperor with a ferocious expression and roared, "Tell your subjects to attack. Kill them even if you have to self-destruct. Don't go too far." The Spider Emperor finally couldn't hold back his humiliation any longer. He glared at Zhuge Mingyang with his long, narrow eyes. "You still dare to disobey me? Believe it or not, I can cripple your bloodline power right now." Zhuge Mingyang roared. The Spider Emperor's actions had undoubtedly infuriated him. Boom. But at this moment, a monstrous killing intent erupted. Zhuge Mingyang hurriedly looked over and saw Qin Feiyang slowly getting up. His blood-red hair danced in the wind, and his entire body was shrouded in a murderous aura. He was like a god of death that had returned, making people tremble. Oh no! The three burly men tensed up. Swish! In the next moment, Qin Feiyang leaped a few hundred feet and landed on the back of the Spider Emperor. He said with a voice transmission, "Don't move. I'll help you get rid of his control." The Spider Emperor originally planned to attack Qin Feiyang immediately, but he was overjoyed when he heard Qin Feiyang's words. Qin Feiyang formed a seal with both hands, and the enslavement seal appeared instantly and entered the Spider Emperor's head. The Spider Emperor immediately roared. "Don't resist," Qin Feiyang shouted. "Enslavement seal? What is he trying to do?" Zhuge Mingyang was shocked, but soon, his body shook and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. "How is this possible? Blood soul art." Zhuge Mingyang's eyes were lifeless. His face was filled with disbelief. "Young Master Zhuge, what's wrong with the blood soul art?" The three burly men looked at Zhuge Mingyang in shock. "The Spider Emperor's blood soul art has actually been broken," Zhuge Mingyang said. "What?" The three burly men's expressions changed. "Hurry up and leave." One of the burly men anxiously roared and brought Zhuge Mingyang with him as they turned around and fled without looking back. Seeing this, the other two burly men also hurriedly chased after them. As the Emperor of the Magic Ghost Spider, and with the cultivation of the 9-star War Emperor realm, he must have accumulated a lot of resentment when he was captured by Zhuge Mingyang. And now that the blood soul art had been broken and the Spider Emperor had regained his freedom, whether it was Zhuge Mingyang or them, they would definitely face the wrath of the Spider Emperor. The Spider Emperor and the Magic Ghost Spider were already difficult enough to deal with, not to mention Qin Feiyang, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, and the Ant Emperor. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House had grasped the divine art. As the Emperor of the Spirit Blood Ants, the Ant Emperor's strength was definitely not inferior to the Spider Emperor's. As for Qin Feiyang, they were all too clear about this person's methods. He was even more terrifying than the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor combined. Not only did he have a large number of divine arts, he also had a divine weapon like Cheng Shui. It was no exaggeration. With Qin Feiyang's current state, just his strength alone was enough to wipe them all out. So, escaping was the wisest choice right now. Looking at the Spider Emperor again, seeing the three burly men frantically fleeing with Zhuge Mingyang, there was a trace of apprehension in its eyes as it asked, "Has the blood soul art really been broken?" Qin Feiyang jumped down and landed in front of the Spider Emperor. He looked into the Spider Emperor's eyes and nodded. "It's been broken. Now you can do whatever you want." Roar! The Spider Emperor immediately roared in excitement. The surrounding Magic Ghost Spider also immediately stopped their attacks on the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House and roared in wild joy. Shua! Following closely behind, the Spider Emperor looked at Zhuge Mingyang and the other three, killing intent gushing out of his eyes as he laughed sinisterly. "You damned humans, you actually dare to capture this Emperor. Little ones, stop them for this Emperor. Kill." The surrounding groups of Magic Ghost Spiders immediately swarmed towards Zhuge Mingyang and the other three, their killing cries shaking the heavens. At the same time, the ground in front of Zhuge Mingyang and the other three cracked crazily. Groups of Magic Ghost Spiders surged out from the ground. Their cultivations were not strong, ranging from 1-star to 8-star War Emperor. In front of the three burly men, they were as insignificant as ants. With a wave of their hands, they could kill a large number of them. However, they did not care about their lives and pounced towards Zhuge Mingyang and the other three. They used their lives and bodies to forcefully stop the four of them. Fresh blood stained the ground. This place was filled with a murderous aura. Whiz! Qin Feiyang and the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House were the first to arrive, one in front and one behind, blocking the four of them. Dong! Accompanied by a series of tremors, the Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor, who had already regained consciousness, rushed over one after another, blocking Zhuge Mingyang and the other three. The group of Magic Ghost Spiders of the 9-star War Emperor also arrived one after another. With Qin Feiyang, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor as the leaders, they surrounded Zhuge Mingyang and the other three. Why is it like this? Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the densely packed Magic Ghost Spiders around and muttered to himself. Why was the blood spirit technique broken out of nowhere? The three burly men sandwiched Zhuge Mingyang in the middle to protect him, vigilantly looking at Qin Feiyong and the group of beasts. Suddenly, Zhuge Mingyang seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stared at Qin Feiyong, saying, "Could it be that the disappearance of the blood spirit technique has something to do with your slave seal? You're finally smart for once." Qin Feiyong said, "How is this possible? They are both secret arts that can control living beings. Why can the slave seal suppress the blood spirit technique?" Zhuge Mingyang was in extreme disbelief as he roared at Qin Feiyong. "Why? Because the slave seal is a divine art." Qin Feiyong sneered. "It's actually a divine art too." Zhuge Mingyang's gaze trembled. The three burly men were also trembling in body and mind. Divine Dragon's secret art, End Ruin's secret art, Eclipse Moon, Kill's secret art, and so on. These divine arts were already shocking enough, and now they were actually telling them that the slave seal was also a divine art? Just how many divine arts were hidden in this little bastard's body? Qin Feiyong glanced at the three of them, then looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said, "Do you know why I kept saying that you were stupid before?" "Why?" Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyong gloomily. He really wanted to know. "You and I have known each other for so many years, and we have also fought for so many years. Don't you know my methods? Just the spider silk of the ghost demon spider. How can it trap me so easily?" Qin Feiyong sneered. His words awakened the dreamer. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly realized. That's right. Qin Feiyong had so many divine arts and divine items. How could he be so easily trapped by the spider silk? Without a doubt. Previously, it was Qin Feiyong who had set up a trap to lure the snake out of its hole. This snake was him. When the Spider Emperor attacked us, I felt that it was strange. It was so close to the Ant Queen. So why would it ambush us here? The result surprised me. This Spider Emperor was actually targeting me. At that time, I was puzzled. I had no enmity with it, so why would it target me? After thinking about it carefully, I began to suspect that someone was behind it, so I beat them at their own game, secretly took out Chang Shui, and sent Chang Shui and the miss of the Longfeng house to the castle. But what I didn't expect was that the person behind it was actually you. Although you were annoying in the past, you were open and above board. But now, how did you become so sinister and despicable? If you want to kill me, just come and find me. I will accompany you at any time. Is it necessary to use such underhanded means? Of course. What you want to do is your freedom. I have no right to ask. I just want to say that the current you is not worthy to sit at the same table as me, Qin Feiyong, let alone be my opponent. Qin Feiyong said lightly. Zhuge Mingyang clenched his hands, and his eyes were as scary as the eyes of a snake. Don't be unconvinced. With the gap between us, I can kill you with one finger, Qin Feiyong said. Faced with such naked sarcasm and contempt, Zhuge Mingyang's entire body couldn't help but tremble. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, "Don't worry. I will do something that will make you even more desperate. The state preceptor is also desperate." Heard. Zhuge Mingyang immediately looked at Qin Feiyong warily. Chapter 1443. Why are you looking at us? The three men looked at each other and couldn't help but feel nervous. Qin Feiyong looked at the three of them for a moment and asked with a smile, "You should also be controlled by the blood soul technique, right?" The three of them nodded instinctively. Qin Feiyong asked, "Then is Zhuge Mingyang controlling you or the Imperial Preceptor controlling you?" "Of course it's the Imperial Preceptor." The three of them said, "That's easy." Qin Feiyong muttered and said with a smile, "Then answer me now. Do you want to live?" "Yes." The three of them nodded without hesitation. Wait, but immediately after, a trace of suspicion crept up in their eyes. What did this person want to do? "You follow the Imperial Preceptor for nothing more than power and cultivation resources, and I can give you all of these, even more than the Imperial Preceptor can give you," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. The three of them looked at each other. Was he trying to bribe them? "That's right. I am bribing you. I believe you more or less know the character of Qin Feiyong. I can do anything to my enemies, but I treat the people around me better than I treat myself," Qin Feiyong said. The three of them fell silent. This point was indeed undeniable, because Qin Feiyong was good to the people around him. This was something everyone knew. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang again, he looked at the three men with incomparable apprehension in his heart. If this was the great Qin Empire at this moment, even if the three of them betrayed him, he wouldn't care, because he could ask the Imperial Preceptor for help at any time. But now, this was a miracle. He was on the first floor. The Imperial Preceptor was on the second floor. There was no way to contact between the two floors. Taking a step back, even if the Imperial Preceptor had the ability to calculate his current situation, he wouldn't be able to come to his rescue. So, now the three of them were very important to him. If the three of them really betrayed him and followed Qin Feiyang, it would be a disaster for him. Qin Feiyang glanced at Zhuge Mingyang, then looked at the three people and said, "To be honest, you don't have to hesitate because there are too many people in this world who want to follow me. If it weren't for the fact that we're in God's domain, you wouldn't even be ranked." The three of them were still hesitating. "Of course, I don't like to force things. If you really don't want to, you can just say it. There's no need to make things too difficult. However, you must think carefully. Should I continue to stay by the Imperial Preceptor's side as cannon fodder? Or follow me, Qin Feiyang, to the peak of the world?" Qin Feiyang laughed again. When the three of them heard this, their bodies shook violently. They shook their heads and said, "We don't want to be cannon fodder. Bastard." Over the years, the Cloud Ancestor has spent countless efforts and resources to nurture you. Now, with just a few words from Qin Feiyang, you all betrayed us. Do you still have a conscience? What a bunch of white-eyed wolves. Zhuge Mingyang roared angrily. Humph. We've already seen through the Imperial Preceptor's character. Although he has been nurturing us, isn't it for his own selfish reasons? The worst thing is that we're peak 9-star combat emperors. But before we left, he ordered us to protect you with our lives. At the end of the day, no matter how strong we are, how capable we are, or how loyal we are, we're still not as good as you, the direct descendants of the Zhuge family. The three of them said angrily. The resentment that had accumulated over the years could finally be vented. Zhuge Mingyang clenched his fists and was about to go crazy. In the past, we didn't dare to resist because of the threat of the blood spirit technique. But now, Your Highness can break the blood spirit technique. Of course, we won't help you anymore. Your Highness, we're willing to turn over a new leaf. Please help us. The three of them knelt down on one knee in front of Qin Feiyang and pleaded, "Turn over a new leaf. I have to say that you're aware. I admire you very much." Qin Feiyang laughed. Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of resentment, and he said unwillingly, "Even if you follow him, he will still use the slave seal to control you. You'll still be slaves and cannon fodder." A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. One of the burly men snorted. "I think they're obsessed." Zhuge Mingyang sneered and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Do you think they're sincerely following you? They're just after the potential elixir." Hearing this, a hint of panic appeared in the eyes of the three of them. That's right. The biggest reason why they chose to follow Qin Feiyang was because they could open the door to their potential. But they didn't expect Zhuge Mingyang to expose them directly. They looked at Qin Feiyang nervously. Qin Feiyang lowered his head in silence, but suddenly smiled and looked at Zhuge Mingyang. Who in the world doesn't want to open the door of potential? It's human nature for them to have this intention. After saying that, Qin Feiyang added, "Moreover, as long as they serve me sincerely, what's wrong with helping them open the door of potential?" The three of them couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and said, "Quickly abolish your cultivation. I'll immediately help you break the blood-soul technique." Although the three of them seemed to be sincerely following him, they were after all the people around the state preceptor. He didn't dare to fully trust them. What if the three of them suddenly resisted when he broke the blood-soul technique and controlled them? Wouldn't he suffer a backlash? So, abolishing their cultivation was the safest way. Yes, the three of them nodded. Without hesitation, they raised their arms and slapped each of their lower abdomens. Puff. As they spat out a mouthful of blood, their chi was of course shattered. It was also at this moment, Zhuge Mingyang's eyes flashed with a sharp light as he charged towards the three of them like lightning. The three of them immediately changed their expressions. Now that their cultivation was crippled, It would be easy for Zhuge Mingyang to kill them. You'd better be honest. But at the same time, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house took a step forward and instantly landed in front of Zhuge Mingyang. Her jade-like hand shot out explosively and slapped Zhuge Mingyang's chest. This chest instantly caved in and was badly mutilated. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, Zhuge Mingyang flew out and smashed into the ground like a meteorite, spitting out blood. His heart was torn into pieces. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and ignored him. His hands quickly formed a seal. Buzz. 3 slave seals quickly condensed and turned into streams of light that entered the top of the 3 people's heads. At the same time, the second floor, in a certain mountain range, the Imperial Preceptor was running alone. To be exact, he was running for his life. His hair was unkempt and his body was in tatters. Roar. Behind him, a terrifying beast roared in the sky. Its body was thousands of feet long, like a towering mountain. Every step it took caused the mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. A terrifying, ferocious aura swept out in all directions. It was it that was chasing after the Imperial Preceptor. Even the Imperial Preceptor, a peak-stage false god supreme existence, could only run for his life. One could imagine how terrifying the second floor was. But suddenly, the Imperial Preceptor, who was running away, froze and spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? Someone's blood soul technique was forcefully broken? Could it be Qin Feiyang's doing again? His old face was full of surprise. Roar! The beast roared like thunder, and its divine might shook the heavens, instantly waking the Imperial Preceptor up. Without time to think, he began to run for his life again. The first floor. The blood soul technique was broken. The slave seal was also completed. Qin Feiyang took out 3 spirit sea pills and threw them to the 3 of them. Thank you, Your Highness. The 3 of them hurriedly thanked him. Your Highness. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be absent-minded. He hadn't heard this name for many years. He sighed and said, You'd better call me young master like everyone else. Greetings, young master. The 3 of them looked at each other and bowed. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, What are your names? Wang Deshang, Li Jian, Zhou Zheng. The 3 of them said one after another. Qin Feiyang silently remembered it in his heart. He waved his hand and said, Go to the side and repair your Sea of Qi first. Yes. The 3 of them took the spirit sea pills and retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth, looked up at Zhuge Mingyang, and said jokingly, Not long ago, you asked me how I want to die. Now I ask you, how do you want to die? As long as I can satisfy you, I will satisfy you. I want you to die first. Zhuge Mingyang said word by word. Qin Feiyang said, This can't satisfy you. Since you can't think of a way, I'll help you think of a way to die. Haha, Zhuge Mingyang suddenly laughed. You can still laugh now? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Was this person still hiding some tricks? You won't kill me. Zhuge Mingyang shook his head and said, Qin Feiyang was stunned. Because I know everything you don't know. For example, why did the Emperor destroy your cultivation in the first place? Why is Emperor Hong doing this to you now? For example, why did the Liu family not dare to intervene in the affairs of the capital all these years? Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of playfulness. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, stepped forward, grabbed Zhuge Mingyang's clothes, and shouted, Tell me everything you know. Beg me. Zhuge Mingyang grinned. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a fierce light, raised his fist, and punched Zhuge Mingyang's lower abdomen. Zhuge Mingyang immediately let out a miserable howl. His sea of qi shattered. Are you going to say it or not? Qin Feiyang shouted. I won't say it. If you have the guts, kill me. But you have to think this through. If you kill me, the truth of all this will leave you. Zhuge Mingyang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Qin Feiyang provocatively. Qin Feiyang's face was as heavy as water. Seeing that the situation was not good, the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house hurriedly stepped forward and said in a low voice, Feiyang, calm down. Don't be bewitched by him. Qin Feiyang looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house and took a deep breath. His anxious heart finally calmed down. He looked at Zhuge Mingyang again and said, even if you really know, even if I really don't kill you, you won't tell me, right? Zhuge Mingyang did not deny it. Using my weakness and weakness to continue to waste time with me, waiting for the other confidants of the Imperial Preceptor to save you. I have to admit, you really have a good plan. I almost fell for your trick, but fortunately, I was reminded in time. Qin Feiyang said. Zhuge Mingyang immediately looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house with hatred. What a damn woman. Chapter 1444. She was indeed qualified to do so. After all, her cultivation was much stronger than Zhuge Mingyang's. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said in a low voice, You really want to kill me? You won't regret it? Since you won't tell me, why should I waste my time with you? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Zhuge Mingyang was not the only one who knew the truth. His mother, second grandpa, third grandpa, fourth grandpa, and so on also knew. It was just that they were unwilling to tell him because the time was not right. After this incident, he had thought it through. Since no one was willing to tell him, why should he painstakingly search for the answer? It was better to cultivate and work hard to improve his strength. In short, now he had to put these things aside for the time being, and completely so as not to let others seize his weakness and affect his mood like Zhuge Mingyang. Qin Feiyang let out a long sigh. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang, he said, Let's end the grudge between you and me here. No. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly screamed in despair. From this moment on, everything will be in the past. Qin Feiyang murmured. He slowly raised his arm. The battle chi was surging at the tip of his index finger. No, I don't want to die. Please, I beg you, let me go. Zhuge Mingyang screamed in horror and struggled madly. But Qin Feiyang was indifferent. His eyes were extremely cold. Whoosh! The battle chi, like a sharp arrow, shot out from the tip of his finger and entered between Zhuge Mingyang's eyebrows. Ah! With a shrill scream, Zhuge Mingyang's blood splashed in the air. A finger-sized bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows and blood spurted out like a fountain. I can't accept, Zhuge Mingyang screamed weakly. Before his voice died away, he fell to the ground and died. So what if you can't accept it? This is fate. You cannot escape the shackles of fate, and neither can I. Actually, at the end of the day, everyone's fate is similar. Life or death, Qin Feiyang murmured. With a wave of his hand, battle chi surged forth. With a boom, a deep pit appeared on the ground. Subsequently, Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Deshang and the other two and said, After all, he was once my opponent. Let him rest in peace. The three of them understood and walked over. They lifted up Zhuge Mingyang's body, turned around, walked to the side of the deep pit, and threw it down. Right. Take away his chinkuan back, Qin Feiyang said. With Zhuge Mingyang's status, there must be a lot of pills and herbs in his chinkuan bag. There might even be some kind of treasure hidden there. After Wang Deshang entered the deep pit and took away the chinkuan bag, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the soil surged, quickly covering Zhuge Mingyang. This also meant that a genius of a generation had fallen just like that. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion smiled and said, We've just entered the divine ruins, and we've already gotten rid of a huge threat. He's just a small fish. The Imperial Preceptor is the big fish, Qin Feiyang said, his eyes shining. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion said, With your ability, it's only a matter of time before you get rid of this big fish. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. It's easier said than done to get rid of a peak false god. Nothing in this world is difficult for those who are willing. Look, in the past, Zhuge Mingyang was also an invincible existence in your eyes. Now, he still died in your hands. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned to look at the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and asked, How do you know that Zhuge Mingyang was stronger than me in the past? Of course I heard about it. Not only Zhuge Mingyang, my mother and I know about your experiences in the Great Qin Empire. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion rolled her eyes at him. Qin Feiyang was stunned once again. He chuckled and said, I didn't expect you two to be such gossipy people. What do you mean? Are you scolding us in disguise? The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's face darkened. No, no, no. How would I dare to scold you? I can't even hide in time. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand. That better be the case. Otherwise, the heavens will strike you to death. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion snorted coldly. What does this have to do with the heavens? Qin Feiyong didn't understand. Suddenly, he rolled his eyes and leaned in front of the miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. He smiled slyly and said, "Let me ask you something." "What is it?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Qin Feiyong said, "What is the relationship between your mother and my ancestor?" "Why are you asking this?" The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion immediately frowned. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly and said, "I'm just curious. You won't tell me that this is also a secret, right?" "This is a secret." The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion snorted coldly. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly and said, "Then what's your name? After all, we still have to be together for a long time. I can't always call you Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion." He only knew that the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was called Ruo Shuang, but he didn't know her surname. He seemed to have asked before, but the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion didn't seem to answer him directly. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion said, "Just call me Ruo Shuang." "All right." Qin Feiyong was helpless. He really couldn't figure out what was so bad about this surname. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion urged, "The matters here are settled. Let's hurry up and continue on our way." It was as if she was diverting Qin Feiyong's attention, not wanting Qin Feiyong to continue asking. "Yes." Qin Feiyong didn't think too much about it and nodded in agreement. With a wave of his hand, he swept up Wang Deshang and the other two and jumped onto the Ant Emperor's back. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion glanced at Qin Feiyong and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She also jumped onto the Ant Emperor's back, but at this time, the Spider Emperor stood in front of them and said, "Human, don't go yet." The Ant Emperor's expression changed as he hurriedly sent a sound transmission. "Old brother, what are you trying to do? You've seen the strength of these people. They're not people you can afford to offend." The Spider Emperor glanced at the Ant Emperor, then raised his head to look at Qin Feiyong and said, "That person called Zhuge Mingyang said that the enslavement seal can also control living beings. This emperor wants to ask, when you were helping this emperor break the blood soul technique, did you take the opportunity to control this emperor?" "No, I'm just helping you break the blood soul technique," Qin Feiyong said. Actually, that was not the case. Using the enslavement seal to break the blood soul technique would also control the target. In other words, the Spider Emperor was now under his control. He didn't say anything because he didn't have any other intentions. He just wanted to keep a trump card in case the Spider Emperor suddenly attacked. "No," the Spider Emperor muttered as a fierce glint appeared in the depths of his eyes. Suddenly, it quickly retreated and shouted, "Little ones, surround them." Dong. Immediately, the surrounding magic ghost spiders surged over and surrounded Qin Feiyong and the rest. The Ant Emperor was shocked and said angrily, "What are you doing? Get out of the way." Wang Deshang and the other two also became nervous. Qin Feiyong and the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion looked at each other and couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Qin Feiyong said, "Why are you doing this? Don't forget, I was the one who saved you just now. Otherwise, your little life would still be in Zhuge Mingyang's hands. That's a different matter. You saved this emperor. This emperor is very grateful to you. If there's a chance, this emperor will repay you. But now, you must release the Ant Emperor." The Spider Emperor said. Qin Feiyong had a look of surprise, so it was to save the Ant Emperor. The Ant Emperor was also very touched. "I admire your loyalty to the Ant Emperor. But now, I really needed to lead the way. When we reach the water source, I promise to let it go." Qin Feiyong looked at the Spider Emperor and said. The Spider Emperor snorted. "The words of humans can't be trusted. Old brother, thank you, but this is voluntary. Don't get involved." The Ant Emperor hurriedly said. It didn't want to implicate the Spider Emperor. This was because it had personally experienced Qin Feiyong's strength. Even if it joined forces with the Spider Emperor, it would only be at a disadvantage. However, the Ant Emperor's words angered the Spider Emperor. It glared at the Ant Emperor and said angrily, "What are you afraid of? What kind of storms and waves have we not seen over the years? At most, we'll die." The Ant Emperor lowered its head and fell silent. It was extremely ashamed. The Spider Emperor snorted and looked at a 9-star Battle Emperor Ghost Demon Spider beside it and said, "Go to the plains immediately and call all the Spirit Blood Ants to come and help. I don't believe that with the combined strength of our two races, we can't do anything to a few humans." Fei Yong, don't make too much of a fuss. If the Spirit Blood Ants really come and join forces with the Spirit Fiend Spider, then even if we kill all of them in the end, we will probably die of exhaustion. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion sent a voice transmission. The Spider Emperor's meaning was obvious. Either let the Ant Emperor go or fight to the death. Qin Fei Yong's eyes flickered. Suddenly, the corner of his mouth lifted and he said with a smile, "Fortunately, I held back, otherwise it wouldn't be easy to end this." Wang Desheng and the other two looked at Qin Fei Yong suspiciously. Hold back? What did he mean? Qin Fei Yong didn't explain. With a thought, the originally valiant Spider Emperor suddenly lay on the ground and cried out in pain. What's going on? The Ant Emperor was shocked. The surrounding Spirit Fiend Spiders also panicked. Qin Fei Yong sneered. Actually, you are already under my control. If I want to kill you now, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. You are so despicable. When the Spider Emperor heard this, he immediately raised his head and glared at Qin Fei Yong. The surrounding Spirit Fiend Spiders also stared at Qin Fei Yong, their eyes flashing with an astonishing ferocious light. Wang Desheng and the other two looked at each other with a hint of joy on their faces. This young master was really shrewd. If he hadn't held back, this matter would have been really difficult to deal with. Just from this point, it could be seen that he was indeed stronger than Zhuge Mingyang. Qin Fei Yong smiled and said indifferently, "This is not called despicable. It is called being careful. Facing beasts like you, I have to be careful." "Then what do you want now?" The Spider Emperor said in a deep voice. "If you didn't make things difficult for me just now, I wouldn't have made things difficult for you. When we leave this mountain range, I will naturally remove your slave seal. But now, it's not that easy. You will accompany us to the water source." Qin Fei Yong laughed. Hearing that they were going to the water source, the Spider Emperor's huge body suddenly trembled, and his eyes were filled with fear. "Old buddy, I told you not to act recklessly, but you just wouldn't listen. Now, even you can't escape." Chapter 1445. The Spider Emperor looked at the Ant Emperor, then looked at Qin Fei Yong's group. He slowly lowered his head and let out a sigh. This was really like the old saying, "The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear." Looking at the dejected look of the Spider Emperor, Qin Fei Yong shook his head in amusement. "Don't act like you've been wronged. Look at Wang Desheng and the others. Their cultivation is not weaker than yours, but aren't they still willing to follow me? What does this mean? It means that I'm a person worthy of you following. Cut the crap. Do you have anything to say? If not, we'll set off." Qin Fei Yong said. "Worthy of following?" The Spider Emperor snorted disapprovingly. He looked at the surrounding fiend spirit spiders and shouted, "When I'm not here, you guys have to guard this place well. Don't run around and don't cause trouble." "Yes." The surrounding fiend spirit spiders replied in unison. Sigh. The Spider Emperor sighed again and looked at Qin Fei Yong. "Let's go. Let's go." Qin Fei Yong stepped on the Ant Emperor's back gently. The Ant Emperor immediately rushed forward with Qin Fei Yong and the others. The Spider Emperor followed beside them. Along the way, his head drooped and he was unhappy. "Old buddy, now that things have come to this, you should get over it. At least this human didn't make us cannon fodder like that Zhuge Mingyang." The Ant Emperor comforted him secretly. "You're silly." The Spider Emperor glanced at the Ant Emperor and sighed. "What do you mean?" The Ant Emperor was puzzled. "Although he didn't make us cannon fodder now, don't forget that we're going to the water source. You and I both know the strength of that fierce crocodile. This human must be worried that he can't beat that fierce crocodile. so he brought us along to work for him at the critical moment. He's not as good as you think, the Spider Emperor thought. It can't be. The Ant Emperor suddenly felt uneasy. It can't be? Just wait and see. None of the humans are good. They're all selfish bastards. The Spider Emperor snorted. At this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his mouth and said, "If I really wanted to use you as cannon fodder, I wouldn't just bring the two of you. I would definitely bring all your subjects with me." How did you know what we were thinking? The Spider Emperor looked at him in shock. The Ant Emperor was also extremely bewildered. This wasn't the first time this had happened. Could it be that this person could read minds? Otherwise, why would this human know what they were thinking? Qin Feiyang didn't explain. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't think too much about the human heart. There are still good people among humans." A good person? The Spider Emperor stared blankly for a moment before replying disdainfully, "Are you talking about yourself?" The Ant Queen chimed in, "People who claim to be good people are often worse than anyone else." Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Looking at the three people, he said, "Give me Zhuge Mingyang's Qinkuan bag." The three of them looked at each other and felt a sense of helplessness. Seeing that Qin Feiyang hadn't mentioned the Qinkuan bag for so long, they thought that Qin Feiyang had forgotten about it. They were even prepared to find time to clean up the Qinkuan bag and divide it among themselves. But unexpectedly, Qin Feiyang hadn't forgotten. Wang Desheng took out the Qinkuan bag and respectfully handed it to Qin Feiyang. As a qualified subordinate, you should take the initiative to hand over the spoils of war. You don't need me to remind you. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He grabbed the Qinkuan bag and lowered his head to check it. Hearing this, the three of them couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It wasn't until now that they realized that Qin Feiyang hadn't forgotten. He was deliberately testing them. Just as Qin Feiyang was checking Zhuge Mingyang's Qinkuan bag, an invisible force suddenly emerged from the place where Zhuge Mingyang's body was buried. But this force was very weak. Even if he tried to sense it carefully, he might not be able to sense it. However, as soon as this power appeared, it spread out in all directions like a ghost. In the mountain range, there were still many magic ghost spiders wandering around. As soon as the power came into contact with the demonic spirit spiders, it silently drilled into their bodies. As for this abnormality, none of the magic ghost spiders noticed it. On the back of the Ant Emperor, the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "How is it? Did you find anything valuable?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded, and with a wave of his hand, a blood fiend pill appeared. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House's gaze trembled. Qin Feiyang said solemnly, "There are at least 500,000 blood fiend pills in this Qinkuan bag." 500,000 blood fiend pills were equivalent to 500,000 lives. This did not include the blood fiend pills that Zhuge Mingyang had refined in the past. This bastard deserved to die 1,000 times over. The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House asked, "Other than the blood fiend pill? There are also more than 100,000 battle chi pills, enough for us to use for a period of time. As for the rest," at this point, Qin Feiyang was suddenly stunned, a trace of suspicion creeping up between his brows. "What's wrong?" the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House asked. Qin Feiyang did not answer, and directly took out a palm-sized jade box from his Qinkuan bag. "What is it?" The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House was suspicious. Wang Desheng said, "I've seen this jade box before. It was given to Zhuge Mingyang by the Imperial Tutor before we came to the miracle." Qin Feiyang and the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House looked at each other, their eyes shining. It was actually given to Zhuge Mingyang by the Imperial Tutor? Then the things inside must be very valuable. What could it be? Qin Feiyang muttered and slowly opened the jade box. Boom! Just as he opened a crack, a wisp of divine might surged out from the jade box. Divine might? Their gazes trembled. Wang Desheng and the other two were also extremely shocked. When the Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor felt the divine might, they immediately stopped and turned to look at the jade box in Qin Feiyang's hands. It was actually divine might. Could it be that there was a divine artifact inside the jade box? Qin Feiyang calmed himself down, grabbed the lid, and opened it in an instant. A jade slip immediately appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The jade slip was the size of a baby's fist, and its entire body was black and gray, with strands of hazy divine light on it. And on the jade slip, there was a pattern of a giant dragon. It's not a divine artifact. Wang Desheng and the other two looked at each other. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yes, this is not a divine artifact, but this is a divine art. Divine art. The three of them trembled both physically and mentally. Although it was not a divine artifact, the divine art was still tempting enough. I didn't expect this guy's Chinkuan bag to be hiding a divine art. What a surprise. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He immediately grabbed the jade slip, sat on the ground, closed his eyes, and immersed his mind into it. A huge amount of information immediately surged into his mind. The lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion glanced at Qin Feiyang, then turned to the Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor. Let's continue on our way. All right. The two beasts nodded. Then, they sped forward while secretly communicating with each other. The Ant Emperor said, Old friend, if we can get the divine art in Qin Feiyang's hands, do you think we'll have a chance to kill that fierce crocodile? You're really good at dreaming. Would he give something as precious as a divine art to us? The Spider Emperor rolled his eyes. The Ant Emperor smiled. Chapter 1446. At the same time, Wang Desheng and the other two were also looking at Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, Wang Desheng said, Li Jian, Zhou Zheng, now that our Sea of Qi has been repaired, shall we take the opportunity to kill them? As long as we kill him, not only his divine arts, but also all his treasures, including Chang Shui and the castle, will be ours. Hearing this, Li Jian and Zhou Zheng were not tempted. Instead, they glared at Wang Desheng. What? Wang Desheng looked at them in confusion. The Ant Queen and the Spider Queen don't know, but don't you know that his seal of slavery can see our inner thoughts? You'll get us killed if you say that, they said angrily. So that's the reason. Wang Desheng smiled and said, You worry too much. He's checking the divine arts now. How can he have the energy to peek into our inner thoughts? We can't say that. Anyway, now I don't want to be Qin Feiyang's enemy, Li Jian said. Yes, look at those who are Qin Feiyang's enemies. Which one of them has a good ending? It's not easy for us to build a relationship with Qin Feiyang. I don't want to ruin our future like this. Don't say that again, Zhou Zheng said secretly. You two are really cowards. Wang Desheng snorted. Swish. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes and looked up at Wang Desheng. Two cold lights burst out of his eyes. Wang Desheng's eyes trembled. Had he found out? Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. He stood up and said, You are underestimating me too much. I am just checking on the divine arts. How much energy can I waste? Thinking back, he had done many things at once. Wang Desheng suddenly panicked. Qin Feiyang slowly put away the jade slip, looked at Wang Desheng, and said with a smile, Li Jian and Zhou Zheng are not cowards. They are sensible. As for you, you're really courting death. Plop. Wang Desheng's body softened. He knelt directly in front of Qin Feiyang and begged, Young master, I won't do it again. Please give me another chance, okay? Seeing this scene, Li Jian and Li Qie rejoiced. Fortunately, they hadn't colluded with Wang Desheng before. Otherwise, Wang Desheng wouldn't be the only one kneeling and begging for mercy. The young lady of the Longfeng house turned her head and looked at Wang Desheng suspiciously. Then, she looked at Li Jian and Wang Desheng and immediately understood what was going on. She ignored it. This kind of person who pretended to be obedient but opposed in secret deserved to be killed. Moreover, she and Qin Feiyang were in the same boat now. If something happened to Qin Feiyang, she couldn't run away. Just now, I was blinded by greed and confused for a moment. Young master, can you be magnanimous and give me another chance? I swear that I will serve you wholeheartedly in the future. Wang Desheng looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully, his heart full of regret. Why was he so stupid to have such thoughts? Wasn't he courting death? Who in the world didn't know what kind of person Qin Feiyang was? How could he tolerate a two-faced person staying by his side? I've already given you a chance. It's you who didn't know how to cherish it. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. I really know I was wrong. I really don't dare to do it again. Please, let me go this time. Just this time. If there's a next time, I won't complain if you kill me. Looking at Qin Feiyang's cold expression, Wang Desheng cried out in despair and kept kowtowing. His head smashed on the thick shell of the Ant Queen with a bang. The Ant Queen said angrily, Hey, 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 can you be gentler? My shell isn't as hard as you think. Will you compensate me if you break it? Her words were full of schadenfreude. The Spider Emperor was speechless. If such a thick shell could be broken, Wang Desheng's head would have been blown off long ago. Li Jian glanced at Wang Desheng and couldn't bear it. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said carefully, Young master, why don't you give him another chance? Yes. It hasn't been easy for him to come this far. Besides, with his strength, he can still help you. Zhou Jing also said. Swish. Qin Feiyang suddenly looked at the two of them, his eyes flashing coldly. Young master, we didn't mean anything else. Please forgive us. Their expressions changed, and they hurriedly knelt to the side. They regretted it. They couldn't even care about their own affairs. So why did they care about the life and death of others? Weren't they digging their own graves? Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them and said, Let me see how loyal you are to me. The two of them looked at each other anxiously. How could they prove it? Suddenly, the two of them looked at Wang Desheng in unison with a trace of ruthlessness on their faces. What are you doing? Wang Desheng looked at them in shock and anger. You're a traitor with glib words. People like you deserve to be killed. Killing intent surged in their eyes as they pounced forward. Li Jian punched Wang Desheng's head. Zhou Zhang slapped Wang Desheng's chest. He didn't show any mercy. You're actually using killing me to prove your loyalty. You're simply bastards. Qin Feiyang, if you don't let me go, I won't let you have an easy time. Die with me. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered, let alone a person. Wang Desheng roared, his eyes flashing with madness. A destructive aura roared out from his body. It was obvious. He wanted to self-destruct and die with Qin Feiyang and the others. We can't let him self-destruct, Li Jian shouted. If Wang Desheng really self-destructed, they would die no matter how many lives they had. The Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor were also quite nervous. However, Qin Feiyang and the mists of the Longfeng house remained calm. Because Qin Feiyang could completely erase Wang Desheng's soul before he self-destructed. However, he didn't do that. On one hand, he wanted to test Li Jian and Zhou Zheng's loyalty. On the other hand, he wanted to test Li Jian and Zhou Zheng's ability to adapt. The destructive aura was like an avalanche as it spread out crazily in this place. Mountains collapsed and the earth caved in. The mists of the Longfeng house couldn't help but become nervous. If Li Jian and Zhou Zhang couldn't kill Wang Desheng before he self-destructed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Die! Li Jian, Zhou Zhang, and Wang Desheng roared at the same time. That destructive aura had already reached its peak. Seeing that Wang Desheng's body was about to self-destruct, Li Jian and Zhou Zhang finally arrived. Battle chi surged and killing intent soared into the sky. Crack! Ah! Accompanied by a scream. Wang Desheng's head exploded like a watermelon. Blood splattered across the sky. His heart was also smashed by a palm, his flesh and blood a mess. Without any suspense, Wang Desheng died on the spot. His entire body flew out like a meteorite, crashing into a mountain ridge not far away and drowning in soil and rocks. That was close. Chapter 1447. The mists of the Dragon Phoenix house was finally relieved. She glared at Qin Feiyang and said, Don't do such crazy things in the future. My heart can't take it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Would he let Wang Desheng self-destruct? Definitely not. If the two of them really couldn't stop it, he would erase Wang Desheng's soul without hesitation. Therefore, the problem that the mists of the Dragon Phoenix house was worried about didn't exist at all. The two of them also heaved a sigh of relief. They turned to Qin Feiyang and asked nervously, Young master, can this prove our loyalty? Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Perform well, and you will benefit greatly in the future. Yes. The two of them were overjoyed. Although Qin Feiyang didn't answer directly, the meaning behind his words was obvious. Right. There should be a lot of blood fiend pills in your chinkoan bags, right? Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and said. The two of them were shocked. Qin Feiyang said, I hate blood fiend pills the most in my life. Hearing this, the two of them quickly took out their chinkoan bags and took out the blood fiend pills inside. Then, without saying a word, they crushed them all. Young master, please check. Then, the two of them handed their chinkoan bags to Qin Feiyang. No need. But if I find out that you are secretly refining blood fiend pills behind my back, then don't blame me for being ruthless, Qin Feiyang said. We don't dare. The two of them quickly shook their heads. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them and turned his gaze to the mountain range in front of him. The two of them couldn't help but wipe their cold sweat. They put away their chinkoan bags and stood respectfully behind Qin Feiyang. The miss of the Dragon Phoenix house asked, What divine art was that just now? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, The Black Dragon scripture has a total of 4 moves. I took a look and found that it is somewhat similar to Zhuge Xingfeng's Blood Dragon art. It is very suitable for Fatso to use. So, you want to leave it for Fatso? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house said. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. This Fatso can be considered to have accumulated good karma from his ancestors to have met you. Otherwise, with his talents, he would probably still be at the bottom of the county of Yen, struggling to make a living. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house smiled. You can't say that. Although I was the one who made him what he has also helped me a lot over the years, Qin Feiyang said. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion looked deeply at Qin Feiyang and did not say anything else. Dong! The Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor were like 2 huge mountains as they moved swiftly across the ground. Gradually, a long mountain ridge appeared in Qin Feiyang's sight. The mountain range was so tall that it pierced through the clouds. It was like a giant python that stretched across the land, emitting a majestic aura. That is the end of the mountain range. After crossing the mountain ridge and passing through a swamp, we will reach the water source. The Spider Emperor said. Swamp? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The Spider Emperor said in a deep voice, That swamp is not an ordinary place. There is a group of ferocious crocodiles lurking in it, and there are no less than 1 million of them. What? So many? Li Jian and the other man were dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang was also rather surprised. He asked, What is the relationship between the ferocious crocodiles in the swamp and the one guarding the water source? They are its subjects. The Spider Emperor said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded. Wait, since there is a swamp, there must be water. If there is water, then it shouldn't be so hot. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house wiped the sweat off her forehead and said, She had really had enough of the temperature here and wanted to find a cool place as soon as possible. The temperature there is indeed not as high as here. But unfortunately, we can't stay in the swamp. The Spider Emperor said. Why? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house raised her brows. Because there is a poisonous gas in the swamp. This poisonous gas can confuse people's minds, causing them to hallucinate and so on. If we don't pass through quickly, there is a high chance that we will die in the swamp. The Spider Emperor said, his eyes filled with fear. If even he was so afraid, it was enough to show that the actual situation in the swamp might be even worse than what he said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he looked at the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house and said with a smile, Why don't I send you to the castle? It's very cool in the castle. I'll call you out when something happens. Can I? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. In fact, she had thought about this question long ago, but she couldn't put down her face and was afraid that Qin Feiyang wouldn't agree or say that she was delicate, so she didn't take the initiative to ask. Of course, Qin Feiyang chuckled and shook his head. No, bastard, are you playing with me? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house was furious. You're the one who's stupid. I don't believe it either. There's no one in the castle right now. How can I let you in without worry? Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Although this mother and daughter pair were very friendly to him now, there were times when he had to be on guard. This was an instinct that had been nurtured through life and death situations for many years. In short, Before the mysterious madam and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house revealed their true identities, he would definitely not trust these two people 100%. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house glared at Qin Feiyang angrily and scolded fiercely, "Little bastard, just you wait." "I'll wait." Qin Feiyang's indifferent attitude made the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house even angrier. Dong. While they were talking, the Ant Emperor brought them to the front of the mountain. Without stopping, the two beasts climbed up the mountain and stood at the edge of the cliff, looking ahead. As expected, on the other side of the mountain was a swamp that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the swamp, other than the smelly mud, there was not a single flower or tree. It looked extremely desolate. Standing on the mountain ridge, Qin Feiyang and the rest could already smell the hallucinatory poisonous gas. "How do we get past such a big swamp?" Li Jian asked worriedly. If they could fly, crossing this swamp would be a piece of cake for people of their level of cultivation. But the problem now was that the power of the rules of the miracle made it impossible for them to fly. Being unable to fly meant that they had to walk. But now, as far as their eyes could see, they couldn't find a solid piece of land. Without solid ground, how could they set foot on it? "There's a way, but you guys have to follow me closely and don't get entangled with the crocodiles in the swamp. Because with our strength, if we're not careful, we'll destroy that path. In short, try your best to avoid battle." The Spider Emperor scanned the swamp and said in a serious tone. Zhou asked, "Is there no other way?" "Yes. Go around the swamp. But if we go around it, it'll take at least a month for us to reach the water source." The Spider Emperor said. "Then how long will it take to cross the swamp?" Qin Feiyang asked. "If we don't delay on the way, it'll take at most 2 days." The Spider Emperor thought for a moment and said, 1 month, 2 days. Chapter 1448. The Spider Emperor led everyone along the mountain ridge for about a dozen miles. Standing at the edge of the cliff, he scanned the swamp below, his eyes filled with vigilance. The swamp was very calm. Only a few places were bubbling. It was also very quiet. But it was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Qin Feiyang and the others also lowered their heads and looked at the swamp below. Inside the swamp, there was a small path that was 2 to 3 meters wide. It was like a winding path that led to the depths of the swamp. The Spider Emperor observed for a moment, and seeing that there was no movement in the swamp, he turned to look at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "This is the path I'm talking about." As it spoke, its body was also rapidly shrinking. Li Jian and Zhou looked at it suspiciously. The bigger the body, the bigger the target. In the past, every time the Ant Emperor and I passed by here, we would shrink our bodies. The Spider Emperor explained. So it's like that. Li Jian and Zhou nodded their heads in realization. These beasts were quite smart. Actually, how could a beast that had cultivated to the peak of the 9-star War Emperor realm be stupid? It wasn't an exaggeration. Their minds were even sharper than some humans. The Ant Emperor turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said with a flattering smile, "About that, I'll have to trouble you to come down and walk by yourself." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. It seemed that this fellow was indeed quite frightened by the methods he had displayed. Otherwise, with its unruly personality, how could it be so polite? Qin Feiyang jumped down and landed steadily on the ground. Miss Longfeng, Li Jian, and Zhou also jumped down from the Ant Emperor's back and landed beside Qin Feiyang. The Ant Emperor's huge body also immediately began to shrink. Finally, whether it was the Ant Emperor or the Spider Emperor, they all became the size of a thumb. If they retracted their auras and hid in the soil, they wouldn't be discovered without looking carefully. Qin Feiyang sized up the swamp, pondered for a while, and said, "The more people there are, the bigger the target." As he spoke, he turned to look at the 3 people from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and said, "You guys go to the castle and wait there first. You're going to play with me again? I won't fall for your trick." The young lady of Longfeng House snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said helplessly, "I'm serious this time, but I'll say the ugly words first. Don't mess around in the castle, or I'll throw you directly into the swamp." The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion pursed her lips in disdain. Li Jian and the other man looked at the swamp, their eyes filled with dread. It would be best if they could go to the castle. At least they wouldn't have to risk their lives outside. As for acting recklessly, did they have the guts to do so now? Qin Feiyang glanced at the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's young lady and secretly sent a voice transmission to Li Jian and the other two. You can send me a voice transmission when you are in the ancient castle. Keep an eye on her. If she shows any abnormalities, inform me immediately. Understood. The two of them secretly replied. Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate. With a wave of his hand, the three of them disappeared. The Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor's eyes flickered with surprise when they witnessed this scene. Ancient castle? What the hell is this thing? He seemed to be very impressive. Qin Feiyang looked at the two beasts and said with a smile, "Come on my shoulder." And? The two beasts were stunned for a moment, wondering if there was something wrong with their ears. "Hurry up, don't waste time," Qin Feiyang urged. "Is this okay?" The Ant Emperor asked. "What's wrong with this? I've already said that I'm not the kind of person you think I am. You don't have to be so reserved in front of me. And now, you guys have become so small. If you lie on my shoulder, your vision will be a little wider," Qin Feiyang said. The two beasts looked at each other in disbelief. There was actually such a kind human in this world? In their understanding, humans were selfish animals. They had always been arrogant towards beasts like them. Even for some humans, having a ferocious beast lying on their shoulders was a form of humiliation. But this man in front of them actually took the initiative to invite them. When he was fierce, he was more ferocious than anyone else. Even beasts like them were afraid. But when he was friendly, he was more amiable than anyone else. What kind of human was this? Why was it so difficult to see through him? Qin Feiyang said impatiently, "Hurry up, it's not the first time my wife got on the sedan. Why are you dilly-dallying?" The two beasts were stunned. They then looked at each other and finally let go of the worries in their hearts. They jumped up and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulders. Their favorable impression of Qin Feiyang instantly increased by a lot. In fact, Qin Feiyang did this to improve the favorability in the hearts of the two beasts, because he wanted these two guys to always stay by his side. One has to know. The number of spirit blood ants and spirit spiders commanded by these two beast emperors was definitely no less than 1,000,000. If he could make them sincerely submit, Qin Feiyang would be sitting on 1,000,000 beasts' army. 1,000,000 beasts' army? What kind of concept is this? Not to mention sweeping across the first floor of the miracle. At least it could deter those who wanted to plot against him. Whoosh! Looking at the path in the swamp, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, jumped and swooped down. "Keep your movements quiet," the Ant Emperor hurriedly transmitted. "Don't worry," Qin Feiyang secretly said. In mid-air, the wind whistled in his ears. When he was about to land, Qin Feiyang turned in the air and landed steadily on the edge of the swamp without making the slightest sound. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang restrained his aura and immediately entered the path. Following the path, he rushed forward. The two beasts also restrained their aura to the extreme, looking around, listening in all directions. And not long after Qin Feiyang left, somewhere on the edge of the swamp, a huge head floated out of the mud. It was the head of a fierce crocodile. Its mouth was slightly open, revealing sharp fangs. It looked at Qin Feiyang's back. Its bell-like fierce eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty light. Then, it quietly dived back into the mud and disappeared. The temperature in the swamp was indeed lower than outside. However, it was also stuffier here than outside. It was hot outside, but it was stuffy here. Miasma, humidity, and poisonous gas filled every corner. Facing such a harsh environment, even Qin Feiyang couldn't help but gradually feel irritated. His clothes had long been soaked in sweat. His long hair was also dripping wet. However, although this was a tiger's den, it was peaceful along the way. Time flew. 9 scorching suns set in the west one after another. Night fell. Without the scorching sun, the miracle of the night became much cooler. However, just as night fell, the originally calm swamp gradually became active. Roar! The deafening roars of beasts could be heard from all directions. The Ant Emperor said in a deep voice, "Although it's stuffy here during the day, It's the safest. Yes. Once it's dark, the fierce crocodiles here will come out. We can be attacked by them at any time. Be careful. The Spider Emperor warned. Chapter 1449. The night of the miracle was not like the day, where there were 10 suns and only one full moon. The moonlight shone down, and the earth seemed to be wrapped in a layer of silver. Qin Feiyang carefully sped along the small path. The Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor were also paying attention to the movements of the swamp on both sides, not daring to be distracted in the slightest. But until midnight, what they were worried about did not happen. Although there were the roars of the crocodiles all around, not a single one of them came out to block their way or ambush them. However, this kind of situation made Qin Feiyang feel uneasy, because on the way, he saw some fierce crocodiles, and these fierce crocodiles also discovered him and the Ant Emperor. But in the end, those fierce crocodiles only silently glanced at them a few times before quietly retreating. Discovering them but not making a move? No matter how he looked at it, it was a bit strange. After a day of traveling, Qin Feiyang had almost entered the central area of the swamp. Not long after, a three-way road appeared in front of them. Qin Feiyang rushed to the intersection, looked at the fork in the road in front of him, and asked suspiciously, "Which way?" "What way? Isn't there only one way?" The Spider Emperor was suspicious. "One way?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. His expression was immediately stunned. The three-way road in front of him had actually disappeared without a trace, leaving only a small path that led straight to the end of the swamp. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang was startled. The Ant Emperor pondered for a moment, as if he had thought of something. His gaze suddenly trembled and said, "You should be hallucinating." "Hallucination?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. "Wait. My current cultivation is the same as yours, at the peak of the 9-star War Emperor realm, but why am I the only one who is hallucinating?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Because this is your first time here, and we have been here many times, so we have a certain immunity to the poisonous gas here," the Ant Emperor said. "Looks like we have to speed up," Qin Feiyang muttered. There was still half the journey to the water source. In other words, he still had to stay in the swamp for another day. If he were to hallucinate now, it was hard to imagine what would happen next. He didn't know when he would hallucinate again. Moreover, hallucinations in this place were fatal. For example, just now, if it wasn't for the Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor reminding him, once he chose the wrong path, he would fall into the swamp. You have to know, who knew how many crocodiles were lurking in the swamp? Falling into the swamp was equivalent to falling into the bloody mouth of a vicious crocodile. It was a narrow escape. Shaking his head, Qin Feiyang used phantom steps and sped along the small path. Wherever he passed, he left behind a series of afterimages. At this speed, if there are no accidents along the way, we will arrive tomorrow evening. The Spider Emperor smiled. The Ant Queen scanned the swamp suspiciously. "What's strange? In the past, when the two of us came in, it was never as peaceful as it is now. And did you notice that the number of crocodiles we met along the way seems to have decreased a lot? Also, the crocodiles we met weren't very strong either," the Ant Emperor said. The Spider Emperor was stunned. After thinking for a moment, he said in surprise, "It seems to be the case. What's going on?" The eyes of the two beasts were filled with surprise. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he also paid close attention. Very soon, they found 2 crocodiles beside the small path in front of them. The 2 crocodiles only revealed their heads and stared at Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor. Their fist-sized eyes flashed fiercely. However, they had restrained their auras and were unable to see through their cultivation. The Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor looked at each other and their auras exploded. The 2 crocodiles were also frightened and instinctively released their auras. The Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor's eyes widened. The aura that these 2 crocodiles released was only at the level of a 5-star combat emperor? Dong! The 2 crocodiles didn't jump out to block the way. They jumped into the mud and disappeared. Qin Feiyang didn't stop and continued forward. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. They found dozens of crocodiles one after another. But what was strange was that these crocodiles were only at the level of a 1-star to 5-star combat emperor. They didn't see a single 6-star combat emperor crocodile. What's going on? Where did those 8-star and 9-star combat emperor crocodiles go? The Ant Emperor and the Ant Emperor became more and more bewildered. All of this was too unusual. Wait. They sped forward for a distance. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang stopped and looked ahead in bewilderment. What's wrong? The two beasts were shocked and immediately became vigilant. Qin Feiyang said, "Quickly listen. Is there any sound in front of us?" He did hear a sound coming from ahead, but he wasn't sure, because he was worried that it was another illusion. Sound? The two of them were stunned. They looked ahead and listened carefully. Rumble, gradually. They could faintly hear a series of rumbling sounds coming from ahead. There's a sound. It seems to be the sound of a battle. The Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Then it doesn't seem to be an illusion." Qin Feiyang muttered, "However, it's very strange. Why is there a battle here?" The Ant Emperor was suspicious. Suddenly, the Spider Emperor seemed to have thought of something and urged, "Hurry up and take a look." And Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor looked at it in surprise. The Spider Emperor said in a deep voice, "If there is really a battle in front, then there is only one explanation." "What explanation?" Qin Feiyang asked. The Spider Emperor said, "It's you humans who are fighting with the crocodiles here." "Yes, yes, yes." The Ant Emperor also quivered and nodded repeatedly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Because the beasts in this area, including me and the Spider Emperor, do not dare to fight with the crocodiles here." "Humans," Qin Feiyang muttered. "Who could it be?" Whoosh. The next moment, he used the phantom steps and rushed forward. As he got closer, the rumbling sound became louder and louder. At the same time, the mud on both sides of the swamp was also slowly surging, like waves on the water surface. Obviously, this was caused by the battle in front. But because of the distance, the swamp surging was not obvious. Time passed breath by breath. Qin Feiyang was getting closer and closer to the battlefield. The rumbling sound became more and more deafening. The mud in the swamp was also rolling more and more fiercely. In some places, there were even waves of mud that were half a meter high. Moreover, there were also more and more crocodiles. The cultivation of the crocodiles was also getting stronger and stronger. Just now, Qin Feiyang had seen hundreds of 6-star combat emperor crocodiles and even dozens of 7-star combat emperor crocodiles. They were like a school of big fish in the swamp, crazily swimming forward, setting off waves of big waves. And the direction they were heading was also where the battle was happening. Obviously, they were rushing to support. It seems that those 8-star and 9-star combat emperor crocodiles have all been attracted by the battle in front. To be able to make so many crocodiles rush to support, I think that the human who is fighting with the crocodiles must be quite terrifying. Chapter 1450. The Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Can you guess who it is?" "The people who came in this time are all very powerful." "I can't tell yet." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Roar. Suddenly, in the swamp not far away, a few 7-star combat emperor crocodiles roared at Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor. Qin Feiyang's body and mind tensed up. The Ant Emperor's eyes turned cold as he stared at the crocodiles and shouted, "You know my methods. You'd better not provoke us." "And me." The Spider Emperor's ferocious aura erupted, covering the sky and earth. The crocodile's pupils shrank as they turned around and continued to rush towards the battlefield. Roar. But before Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor could heave a sigh of relief, an even louder roar rang out. Crash. Following that, a giant crocodile leaped out of the swamp, stirring up huge waves. Its body was 20 to 30 zhang long, like a small mountain. It appeared in the mud and stared at Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor. At the same time, the few 7-star combat emperor crocodiles that had left also turned back and gathered behind the giant crocodile. Moreover, the surrounding 6-star combat emperor crocodiles also stopped and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor. It's over. An 8-star combat emperor crocodile has appeared. The other crocodiles have found their backbone and might attack us. The ant emperor stared at the giant crocodile and said in a low voice, "With their cultivation, they are actually not a threat to us. However, I'm afraid that they will destroy this small path. Without a place to rest, no matter how strong we are, we will be finished." The spider emperor transmitted, "Don't panic. Act according to the situation." Qin Feiyang thought. The giant crocodile sized up Qin Feiyang, its fierce eyes glowing with a terrifying light, and said, "Ant Emperor, Spider Emperor, why is there a human?" Obviously, it also knew the two beasts. The Ant Emperor said, "He is our friend." "Friend?" The giant crocodile was stunned and sneered. "Do you think I'm stupid? With your personalities, would you be friends with humans?" The Ant Emperor said, "You don't have the right to interfere in our affairs." "How dare you? Do you know where this is? Even if you are the emperors of the blood spirit ants and demonic spirit spiders, you have to behave yourselves here." The giant crocodile shouted. The Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor both immediately erupted with fearsome, baleful auras upon hearing this. As a beast emperor who ruled over a region, they would never tolerate an ordinary ferocious beast like the giant ferocious crocodile showing off in front of them, because this was trampling on their dignity. "I can ignore all of you, but you must leave that human behind," the giant crocodile said with a murderous aura. That tyrannical attitude left no room for negotiation. The Ant Emperor said gloomily, "What if I say no?" "Then you can all die with him." The giant crocodile said, "Arrogant." The Emperor Ant and the other two beasts were enraged. They shouted, "If it weren't for the Crocodile Emperor, you would be a corpse by now. I advise you to stop being so presumptuous." "Ha ha, Ant Emperor, you think too highly of yourself. Lord Crocodile Emperor, when have I ever put you in my eyes? Face, don't you think it's ridiculous?" The giant crocodile suddenly laughed wildly. "That's right. Every time you meet Lord Crocodile Emperor, you're the ones who run away like rats. If it weren't for Lord Crocodile Emperor being too bored and wanting to find some fun, he would have already killed all of you. You still dare to be arrogant in front of us? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror?" The surrounding crocodiles also sneered. "I can't take it anymore. All of you, go to hell for me." The Ant Emperor was furious. Battle Chi surged wildly, turning into a huge wave that covered the sky. With a destructive aura, it rushed towards the crocodiles on both sides of the swamp. "Ant Emperor, you're courting death. Lord Crocodile Emperor will not let you go. Little ones, let's go." The crocodile roared loudly. A group of crocodiles immediately drilled into the mud. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang did not dare to stay for a moment. He immediately used phantom steps and rushed forward. This was because the Ant Emperor's attack was enough to destroy the small path under his feet. Boom! The battle chi blasted into the swamp. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. In this place, the mud suddenly surged, covering the sky and the moon. At the same time, cries of agony could be heard coming from the swamp. No one knew how many crocodiles died under the Ant Emperor's battle chi. In just an instant, the swamp within a radius of hundreds of miles was dyed red with blood. The pungent smell of blood, coupled with the stench of the swamp, made one nauseous. "Ant Emperor, you damn old bastard, we won't let you go. Little ones, destroy that path and let them die in the swamp together with that human." The giant crocodile's roar exploded under the swamp. Roar! In all directions, the beast's roar shook the sky. A group of crocodiles with fierce eyes opened their bloody mouths and pounced crazily towards Qin Feiyang and the Ant Emperor. Some of the crocodiles also attacked the small path crazily. Boom! The path in front of Qin Feiyang collapsed and sank into the swamp. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have angered them." Seeing this scene, the Ant Emperor blamed himself. "It's okay. The fierce battle between us and them will break out sooner or later. It's just brought forward now. We'll talk about it later. They've humiliated you so much. If we don't do anything, won't it make us look too weak?" Qin Feiyong sneered. The Ant Emperor and the Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong in a daze. They thought that Qin Feiyong would blame them for being reckless, but they did not expect that he would support them. His favorable impression of Qin Feiyong instantly increased by a large margin. Roar! Whoosh! The army of crocodiles covered the sky and covered the earth. Their cultivation levels were between 6-star combat emperors and 7-star combat emperors. In this place, the mud waves rose hundreds of feet high. What should we do? The Ant Emperor and the Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong helplessly. Qin Feiyong stopped and glanced at the crocodiles around him. He said in a low voice, "The path in front has been destroyed. We can only retreat." But before he finished speaking, with a loud bang, the path behind them was also destroyed by a few crocodiles. "We won't die like this, right?" The Ant Emperor was burning with anxiety. The word death has never existed in my Qin Feiyong's dictionary. Qin Feiyong snorted and glanced at the crocodiles in front of him. He shouted, "I have a way to cross over. Don't worry about anything. Just kill." Okay. The two beasts nodded. Boom. Qin Feiyong's aura, which he had been hiding, suddenly burst out of his body. Along with the aura, a shocking murderous intent appeared. It was like a surging torrent that swept across the sky for thousands of miles. His whole body was surrounded by a bloody aura. His bloody hair was fluttering. His bloody eyes were like a pair of eyes of the god of death, shining with a ruthless and bloodthirsty light. The word kill between his eyebrows was like a bloody moon, emitting a blazing bloody light. The heaven and earth here were dyed with a layer of bloody red, as if it had become a purgatory. This murderous intent, is he still human? Chapter 1451. What are you all standing there for? Kill them quickly. The giant crocodile shouted again, but there was no sign of it. Obviously, this was a master who was afraid of death. It did not dare to show itself and hid in the dark to give orders. Roar! When the frightened crocodiles heard this, they immediately went crazy and rushed toward Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor. Qin Feiyong looked around and his blood-red eyes flickered. Attack! Suddenly, he shouted coldly and stepped on the ground. With the help of the force, he jumped high into the air. Boom! The small path under him also shattered and was drowned in mud. One had to know that this was the only place he could stand. In other words, right now, Qin Feiyong already had no way out. The problem he had to face now was how to find a safe place to set foot in this endless swamp. Kill. At the same time, the Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor also attacked crazily, killing the crocodiles that pounced from all directions. Both beasts were super powerful peak 9-star combat emperors. The strongest crocodiles in this area were only 8-star combat emperors. To the two beasts, it was naturally a massacre. Blood flowed like a waterfall. One by one, corpses fell from midair and smashed into the swamp, setting off huge waves. Looking at Qin Feiyong again. At this moment, he was like an agile monkey, stepping on the corpses of the crocodiles and rushing toward the location of the giant crocodile. That's right. This was his plan. Although there was no place to stay in the swamp now, there were many fierce crocodiles. As long as the Spider Emperor and the Ant Emperor killed their way there, he could use the corpses of these fierce crocodiles to jump continuously. I see. The Ant Emperor and the Spider Emperor were also enlightened. In their hearts, they were full of admiration for Qin Feiyong. In such a dangerous situation, he could still be so calm and think of a solution immediately. This kind of temperament was not comparable to ordinary people. Wait, are we going in the wrong direction? Suddenly, the Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and asked. Logically speaking, in this situation, they should be heading straight ahead, because this was the only way to get out of danger as soon as possible. But now, Qin Feiyong was actually running to the left. What was he trying to do? The direction is right, Qin Feiyong said. Right? The two beasts looked at each other. I know what you're thinking, but have you ever thought of another question? If these fierce crocodiles all dive into the swamp in an instant, what kind of situation will we face? Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. This The two beasts felt a chill run down their spines. Now, there was no place to stay in the swamp. They were completely relying on the carcasses of the fierce crocodiles as stepping stones. But if, just as Qin Feiyong had said, all the vicious crocodiles here had suddenly dived into the swamp, who would they find to be their stepping stone? No, that was because there was nothing here other than the vicious crocodiles. Without a stepping stone, there was only one ending for them, which was to fall directly into the swamp and be swallowed by it. In the end, all of them died under the fangs of the vicious crocodiles. Thinking of this, the two beasts immediately looked at Qin Feiyong nervously and asked, "Do you have any solutions?" "Yes. Find a vicious crocodile as a mount. This is also the only way I can think of so far." Qin Feiyong thought, "Is it possible for them to be our mounts?" Heard of it. In the hearts of the two beasts, a sense of despair immediately rose. They knew the temperament of these vicious crocodiles too well. It was impossible for them to submit to them. Moreover, even if these vicious crocodiles were willing, they wouldn't dare to stand on their backs, because this was simply courting death. If the vicious crocodile beneath their feet suddenly sank into the swamp, wouldn't they also sink in? Qin Feiyong said, "I'm not sure about the other vicious crocodiles, but the vicious crocodile that is secretly giving orders can definitely do it." The Ant Emperor asked, "Are you talking about the 8 Star War Emperor's vicious crocodile from before?" "Yes. This guy. Ever since the two of you made your move, it has been hiding in the dark. This means that it is a coward who is afraid of death. Later, as long as I use the slave seal to control it, it will definitely listen to my orders." Qin Feiyong transmitted. So that's how it is. From such a small detail, he can actually think of so much. What exactly is in this person's head? The two beasts exclaimed. "Don't think about those messy things. Quickly find the location of that vicious crocodile." Qin Feiyong used the corpse of the vicious crocodile to jump while carefully scanning the swamp. The Ant Emperor and the two beasts looked at each other. They were also slaughtering while searching. Bang, bang, bang. The group of crocodiles advanced one after another. Blood stained the sky. At this moment, there were at least thousands of crocodile corpses floating on the swamp, but they were all sinking into the swamp one after another. This bastard, where exactly is he hiding? After not seeing any trace of the giant crocodile for a long time, the Ant Emperor and the two beasts couldn't help but become angry. "Don't worry. Just kill as much as you want. These vicious crocodiles here are all acting under his orders. Sooner or later, he will give orders again. As long as he makes a sound, we will be able to find him." Qin Feiyong comforted. Of course, these words were all secretly transmitted through voice transmission. After all, the vicious crocodiles here were all intelligent. If they were to hear those words, then Qin Feiyong's plan would definitely fall short of success. Every word that Qin Feiyong said was like a reassuring pill. Especially when they saw Qin Feiyong's calm attitude, the two beasts felt a lot more at ease. Boom. Ferocious power surged. Murderous aura was monstrous. They slaughtered crazily, ending the lives of the vicious crocodiles one after another. And just a few miles away, a huge head was hidden among the corpses of the vicious crocodiles, watching Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor. "I didn't expect these bastards to be so difficult to deal with." That's right. It was the giant crocodile. What should we do? Looking at the Ant Emperor and the Ant Emperor that were killing in all directions, its expression was full of irritation. Suddenly, a fierce light flashed in its eyes, and it let out a burst of laughter, roaring, "Little ones, retreat." It finally made a sound. Qin Feiyong and the Ant Emperor immediately turned around and instantly locked onto the giant crocodile's body. Whoosh! Following closely, Qin Feiyong took a step forward, stepped on the back of a vicious crocodile, and went straight to the giant vicious crocodile. A few miles of distance, to the current him, was nothing. In the blink of an eye, the giant vicious crocodile was stunned and quickly dived into the swamp. Boom! Qin Feiyong's body shook, and the purple gold dragon soul appeared out of nowhere. Innate divine ability, immediately activated. Emperor Divine Prison. An invisible force rushed towards the giant vicious crocodile. In just a moment, the giant vicious crocodile was imprisoned, unable to move at all. Qin Feiyang landed steadily on the head of the vicious crocodile. Seeing this, the surrounding group of crocodiles all turned around and pounced over. Qin Feiyang stepped on the head of the vicious crocodile, his entire body filled with killing intent, and shouted, "If you don't want to die, make them stop immediately." Feeling the bone-piercing killing intent, the giant vicious crocodile's eyes trembled and hurriedly roared, "All of you, stop!" The sound was like a bell, shaking all directions. At this moment, the incoming vicious crocodiles came to a sudden stop, but the murderous light in their eyes did not dissipate, staring straight at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang did not waste any time, and directly took out the slave seal, entering the head of the giant vicious crocodile. Roar! The giant vicious crocodile immediately howled in pain. But soon, it stopped screaming, its eyes filled with shock, and said angrily, "What did you do to me?" "This is the slave seal. Now that your soul has been controlled by him, if you want to live, you have to listen to us." The Ant Emperor sneered. "Control the soul?" The giant vicious crocodile was skeptical. "It seems that I have to make you suffer for a long time before you believe me." Qin Feiyang coldly snorted, and with a thought, he activated the slave seal. The giant vicious crocodile howled again, feeling as if its head was about to split open, and the aura of death enveloped it. It hurriedly roared, I believe, stop quickly." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and stopped operating the slave seal. The pain immediately disappeared. The giant vicious crocodile exhaled with lingering fear and asked, "What do you want me to do?" Seeing the giant vicious crocodile submit, the two beasts finally heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, the danger was averted. Qin Feiyang said, "Take me out of this swamp." "Sure, but you have to promise not to kill me." The giant vicious crocodile didn't even think about it and said, "Of course, but in advance, don't play any tricks." Qin Feiyang said, "My little life is now in your hands. How would I dare to play any tricks?" The giant vicious crocodile smiled bitterly, and the lower half of its body floated out of the swamp. Then, it took Qin Feiyang and swam forward. The Ant Emperor glanced at the vicious crocodile, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a flattering smile, "You are really too awesome. How about I acknowledge you as my boss, and you take me out to explore?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. The Spider Emperor also looked at the Ant Emperor in surprise. He never expected that the Ant Emperor would take the initiative to ask to follow this person. The giant vicious crocodile was also stunned, and then said disdainfully, "The dignified phantom blood Ant Emperor is actually licking his face to please a human. You are really a disgrace to us beasts. You have such a backbone, but aren't you the same now, obediently submitting to Boss Qin?" The Ant Emperor retorted. The giant vicious crocodile immediately lowered its head in shame. "Boss Qin, how is it?" The Ant Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang with an expectant face. "Of course I welcome you to follow me, because this way, I will have another good brother. But what about your subjects?" Qin Feiyang was full of smiles. Along the way, he had done so much just to make the Ant Emperor follow him willingly, didn't he? Now that the Ant Emperor had asked, he naturally wouldn't refuse. The Ant Emperor said, "These are all small problems. I will go back and tell them when the time comes." "Okay, since you want to follow me, I will definitely not treat you badly." Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, then took out a potential pill and handed it to the Ant Emperor with a smile. "This pill is called a potential pill. It can open the door of potential. Keep it well." "What? Open the door of potential? Really?" The Ant Emperor looked at the potential pill in disbelief. "Of course it is. The people and beasts around me, including myself, have already opened the door of potential." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.